Eagle Nation, it is great to see you again from the Armstrong Ballroom in the Sheraton, New Orleans. This is 2021 coverage of Sunbelt Conference Football Media Day from the Big Easy, back in person. No COVID to worry about here in New Orleans. It is so nice to be back. It is so nice to see everybody in the same place. And we know the kickoff in this conference is only 42 days away. 6 weeks from now, two Sunbelt teams will get it going on Thursday night. Coastal Carolina is taking on the Citadel to open the season. And then, of course, Georgia Southern, along with the rest of the league, opening up September the 4th against the Gardner-Webb running Bulldogs from Allen E. Paulson Stadium. Eagle Nation, we appreciate you joining us. Alongside Colin Lacy, I'm Danny Reed. Jam-packed couple of hours. We're going to speak with every coach that the Eagles play in the Sunbelt Conference in 2021. Of course, head coach Chad Lunsford will join us a little bit later on. Player representatives J.D. King, Todd Bradley Glenn are here. The two number ones are here in New Orleans. We'll speak with Sunbelt Conference Commissioner Keith Gill coming up later on this hour, and plenty more coverage as we are about to embark on a different football journey. A year ago, we had no idea what it was going to look like with the COVID protocols in place. How many games would we play? Would we play at all? 13 games later, Georgia Southern goes 8-5, wins the New Orleans Bowl, not too far away at the Superdome, throttling Louisiana Tech 38-3 to take another bowl ring home, another bowl trophy home. This year, though, it feels like it's going to be closer to normal. We know the Delta variant is out there in regards to COVID, but it feels like we're closer and we can reach out and touch what we had at the end of 2019, and that's a refreshing thing.
And I think this event was a big part of being able to do that.
Yeah.
Because not having this last year, still trying to figure out what was going to happen in college football across the country, not just in the Sun Belt Conference this time last year when we were – are we going to New Orleans? Are we not going to New Orleans? We knew it might be virtual. We might not even have a season at this point last year. But being able to be here, have everybody has been asked to be either vaccinated or get tested, and so you don't need masks here. It's been a lot of fun to get to see people, interact with people in a way that is about as normal as you can get right now.
Had a different venue for this year. Usually we had the Fado-Do, that's the pre-event party that would take place the night before, and then this usually happens over at the Superdome, but because there's some construction going on a little over than a mile away, they are having the ESPN Plus portion of the day where Matt Stewart, Rocky Boyman on ESPN Plus are talking with all 10 head coaches in advance of the season, so that is taking place in the all-new state-of-the-art Sunbelt studio. We'll ask Keith Gill about that when we have him on live later on this hour, but everything else has moved to the Sheraton, and it's been interesting from that standpoint because everybody's staying here, but the event is actually in the hotel, so we're not having to worry about going anywhere.
No, it's been really nice, and everybody was kind of skeptical of what this event would look like when it's not in the Superdome. I know it's a lot more work for the Sun Belt Conference, not having to have this event 3 doors down from their offices, but having to move across town here to the Sheraton. But they have done a fantastic job, as always. A lot of the Sun Belt events, we brag on them all the time. Of the Sun Belt Conference events run extremely smoothly. You've got so many different branding from the Sun Belt Conference. Just in front of us, you've got the Sun Belt Conference stage and where all the coaches and players have been at the podium. You had the State of the Conference address by Keith Gill earlier on this morning, I should say. And then you've got Radio Row around each side. But this is about as good a setup as you could have imagined, even whether we were in the Superdome, whether we were here, wherever you were going to be. Really good setup by the Sun Belt Conference, and it's been a really well-received event.
And the timing of the event has been pretty good. We had some news come out earlier today that the Sun Belt Conference's relationship with the ESPN family of networks has been extended through the 2030-31 season. Commissioner Gill talked a little bit earlier about the bowl tie-ins, whether teams will have to forfeit games if COVID is an issue, forcing teams to not be able to field a successful squad. He will talk about that amongst many more topics, but it's been a crazy couple of days in college football as well. The announcement of maybe Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12, going to the SEC. Of course, name, image, and likeness is just a few weeks old. You've got the one-time transfer coming into play. The transfer portal has been an issue for years. You've got the Supreme Court. You've got a lot on the plate of college athletics at this point, and football represents an opportunity to see how things are going to be adapted, but also how will things be able to move on and get us back to where we were before.
And something that the Sun Belt does that I really like, it's different from a lot of the conferences. You see the SEC, it goes over 4 or 5 days. You've got a certain number of teams each day. ACC, I think, breaks it up between the Coastal Division. The other division goes on separate days. Sun Belt Conference, everybody is here at the same time. Between the last 2 days and yesterday is when you had all the AD meetings, you had all the communications meetings, a lot of meetings yesterday on the administration side. And so you get everybody here at the same time, and there's a lot that gets done in these 2 days. And I think everybody sees Media Day and, it's Chad at the podium with JD and Todd, and then it's time to go home.
Right.
But there have been people here the entire day, different radio stations going live throughout the day. You had, I think the first one they told me went live at 5:30 this morning, which no. But
we were close to going live at 5:30. That means us getting up.
I was not going live at 5:30.
We were set up. We were ready to go. We just weren't going to go that early.
But it's a huge event and a huge couple of days, and a lot gets done, both that people see, but also that people don't see. We mentioned the AD meetings. We talked with Jared Benko yesterday and earlier on this morning. A lot that had to get covered in such a short amount of time, but being able to do that where you bring everybody to the same location, get everybody together in the same room, and a lot gets hammered out.
Eagle Nation, we remind you that the 2021 Georgia Southern football season is brought to you by Morris Bank. Bleed Blue, Bank Blue, Morris Bank. Member FDIC. For those of you that are taking this in on Facebook Live, feel free to submit a question or a comment, and you can ask us anything that you would like. And, of course, for Commissioner Gill, for Coach Lunsford, for Todd or JD coming up a little bit later on during this 2-hour live show. As we mentioned, we're going to be speaking with each head coach in the league that Georgia Southern matches up with. We'll have some comments from new Arkansas State head coach Butch Jones in just a couple of minutes, but we have the all-league teams that were announced, the predicted order of finish in the West. It was no surprise that the Ragin' Cajuns get 9 out of 10 possible first-place votes because they couldn't vote for themselves. But it's going to be a race to see who finishes in second with the 3 new head coaches in the league, all in the West Division. And then in the East, you could probably predict that App State and Coastal were going to be near the top. It just so happens that they are the number 1 seeds, I guess you would say, to take the East. But you could make that case for Troy, for Georgia State, especially for Georgia Southern. Any of the 5 could make that move, just like Coastal did last year when they went 11-1.
Yeah, and earlier today when we were talking to the other coaches that Georgia Southern are going to be playing, you're going to hear these interviews throughout the next 2 hours. But when we're talking about them, the theme that keeps coming up is how strong the Sun Belt is, especially now. Whenever you look at across the board, you can make a case for most teams in this league to win the league. And there's not a whole lot of leagues that you can do that for. And so being able to have such a strong Sun Belt conference and such strong teams, I think it just shows you why the Sun Belt had so much success last year, because you got that extra limelight, those extra ESPN games, because a lot of teams weren't playing at that time.
3 different teams in the Sun Belt were ranked last year at various points: Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, and Louisiana. Coastal actually got to as high as 9th in the country. Did you ever think that a Sun Belt team was going to be in the top 10? Look, we know a lot of teams didn't play or get their full allotment of games because of COVID-19 issues all across college football. But for Coastal to handle it maybe better than anybody else, the first conference team to ever go 11-0. We didn't get a league championship game against Louisiana because that was canceled due to COVID issues on the Coastal side. They finished 12th in the CFP standings. Louisiana also finishing in the top 20. Yeah, there were extenuating circumstances that allowed the Sun Belt to be successful because they were simply able to play. How is that going to work into this year where most teams are going to get back to normal? We don't know yet. But you have to think the Sun Belt is in a good position to at least tread water, if not find a way to continue to improve.
And it's something that Commissioner Keith Gill talked about in his State of the Conference address earlier on this morning. Of the theme was how strong the Sun Belt is.
Yeah.
The Sun Belt's strong. We talked about the ESPN deal getting reworked. We'll talk to him about that a little bit later on. He'll be coming on at 2:20 Eastern, so in just a few minutes. But we're going to have Chad Lunsford coming on just before 2 o'clock, just before 3 o'clock. See, that Central Time gets me.
You were doing so well, too.
I was mowing today.
He's trying.
But at 2:50, we're going to have Chad Lunsford coming on, and then J.D. King and Todd Bradley Glenn coming on at 3:20 Eastern Time, 2:20 local.
We'll get all of those in before we have to take our plane to get back to the southeastern Georgia area. And then camp starts in a couple of weeks. But Eagle Nation, for right now, we will take a listen to our first opposing head coach in the 2021 season. This is our conversation with Arkansas State first-year head coach Butch Jones. Back in New Orleans, talking now with Arkansas State head coach Butch Jones, about to enter year 1 in Jonesboro, one of the 3 new head coaches in the West Division. Coach, first of all, congratulations on getting back in the head coaching game. What's it been like getting reacclimated to having your own team?
I tell you what, it's been a great process. And, getting back in the head coaching chair, and very fortunate with Coach Saban and kind of the role that I had at the University of Alabama. So I never really kind of left that role, but to be running your own program again, being able to be around the players, create the infrastructure that you need, the culture, your principles, your values that are going to guide you every day. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
You've been a head coach at multiple places, and I would imagine that everybody asks you, well, what did you learn from Saban? What did you learn from Saban? What do you think that you taught him?
Oh, what, you're the first person that's asked
I
me
was
that
hoping
question.
I would be.
You know, that's really hard to say because that man, is arguably the greatest football coach of all time.
Yeah.
But, I cherish the many memories of sitting in his office, doing problem solving, getting ready to hire a staff, bouncing different opinions off of each other. We still talk very regularly. So, again, those moments, and have an opportunity to win a national championship, it really, that time in Tuscaloosa, I was able to sit back and truly evaluate the three stops, and everything was about being able to look at things through a critical eye. And I really self-examined everything that you did, the things that you liked, the things you need to continue to do to improve and get better. And so it was great from a, I don't want to say a self-discovery standpoint, but just from a self-overall evaluation and what we needed to do in order when the next job came, what we needed to do to continue to move forward.
When you started talking about what the possibilities with Arkansas State were, what was the kind of the thought you had of what the Sun Belt Conference and what Sun Belt
Sure.
Conference football was all about?
Well, having been in the SEC for the last 8 years, obviously the proximity of the Sun Belt Conference, and whether it was Tennessee or Alabama, we played a lot of Sun Belt teams. Tremendous amount of respect when you really look at the growth of the Sun Belt. And I always talk about fact checks. All you have to do is look at the facts behind what everyone's talking about. But, you have a conference that's comprised of great coaches, great players, but really committed institutions that are doing everything to make their football programs, their athletic programs, the best that they can possibly be. And so have had a lot of respect for the Sun Belt. And then, again, it's a challenge week in and week out. I think arguably you have the SEC and you have the Sun Belt because of the competitive structure of the conference week in and week out.
You just won a national championship at Alabama. Arkansas State is among the best programs in G5 in a number of different areas, facilities-wise. You could put them ahead of a lot of P5 schools. But when you combine that and the ability to go into a prospective recruit's house and say, hey, I've got national championship ring, that's got to be a pretty compelling thing.
It was, and I think the other thing is we had already established relationships with a lot of the individuals that we were recruiting. I believe we only had a week with the early signing period to be able to assemble, a class. But we relied on all of our camps. We relied on our relationships that were built over a couple years. And so I think that really helped us. And then, comprising a staff that is coached at the highest level, understands the recruitment part of it, and every day what you need to do in order to develop your team, develop your players, but also recruit at a high level.
The Eagles and the Red Wolves did not play each other last year, but a quick scan of the roster, it is a lot different from what we saw in 2019. Red Wolves got that close victory out in Jonesboro. But as you're trying to build your team your way, what are some of the things that Eagle Nation is going to notice when you come to Statesboro in October?
That's a great question, and we're continuing to be work in progress. And just so your program models consistency. When you look at Coach Lunsford and how long he's been there, and you look at the winning tradition, matter of fact, you have a very proud alumnus on our coaching staff who coaches our tight ends, and Andy Kwan. So I hear about the program every single day.
He's a great dancer, too. I'm sure he's told you about that.
I can show you many videos one day. So when we come there, I may have a video or two for you on the phone. But, just the consistency in the program and everything that it brings about. But in terms of our program, everything is about a culture. And everything we talk about is learning how to play winning football. And that's something that we had to really get into this spring. And before you can ever win the game, you have to not lose the game. And that may sound very profound, but from turnovers, costly mistakes, undisciplined penalties, just things like that. So really them understanding what it takes to play winning football, the style of play, the consistency and performance that goes each and every day down in and down out.
You guys have so many athletes on that roster. Arkansas State is always known for being, if not the most, one of the most athletic teams in the Sun Belt. But you've been pretty adamant this offseason. This squad has to get tougher, have to get more physical. Yes. How have you been building towards that?
Well, I think first of all, it stems in your sports performance. You know, our players, unfortunately, really went about a full year without any strength and conditioning program in terms of, you know, they had started spring football pre-COVID. Then the pandemic hit, so they went through basically a full year, and so we really had to improve in the sports performance area, being more powerful, more explosive. And Jeff Jones is head of our sports performance, and our players have done a good job to date of really getting into that, because that is a byproduct of playing physical, but also just the mental toughness, the mental conditioning too. So all you have to do is look at the lines of scrimmage. We did not do a very good job of running the football on offense, nor did we do a good job of really stopping the run on defense. And really, that is a byproduct of the mentality in your football program.
You've talked about culture a lot since you got to Jonesboro. What's the biggest thing that you want this Arkansas State team to be known for off the football field?
Brotherhood, love and ownership, and team chemistry, you know, having that synergy, and that's something that we've worked exceptionally hard on, and I've been really, really proud of our players. I like our football team. You know, they've embraced the new coaching staff. They've embraced the changes, but really building a confidence, building an affinity for Arkansas State University, the brand and what they represent. You know, we had Demario Davis talk to our football team, and if there's ever a great spokesperson for an alumnus, you know, to talk to your program, it's him. You know, and he talked about, you know, the people that came before you and how they built it and the facilities and the reputation and all that goes into it. So it was a very, very powerful talk, and I know our players took a lot away from that.
That's part of your 4th and 1 program. You've had Charles Barkley speak to the team. You've had Travis Kelce speak to the team, and what gets lost is that you coached him at Cincinnati. I don't think a lot of people recollect that he was a really good player at Cincinnati under you, but getting that program in place, what kind of things do you want your team to be able to learn from hearing from people that have already done it?
Well, I think anytime you can bring successful people in, it really helps, because really, if you look at it, they're saying the same things. They may just have a different approach or a different delivery, but they keep hearing basically the same message over and over and over again. And really, what it understands to be committed. You know, what does it understand to be the best version of you every day? And really the sacrifice that goes into it each and every day. And, you know, we talked about this a lot with Coach Saban, as I think what's missing in the world today is the ability to self-assess, you know, to really look at things through a critical eye. And if everyone just continues to improve and self-assess every day where they're at, we're going to be just fine.
Final question. When you're trying to self-assess a group that you just got to know, still getting to know, and you've had to turn over so much of the roster, how much more challenging is that aspect?
It's challenging, but the other thing, you know, when we talked about culture in our first team meeting, I told them this is the most exciting thing we can do, because we're responsible for what we create. And we're going to create it on a daily basis, the way we think, the way we act, the way we talk. So, you know, we've kind of embraced that. It's been a challenge, but I tell you what, again, it's exciting, because when you see, you know, when you see the benefits coming from it, we had 60 players with a 3.0 or above. You know, we finished at a 2.999. We have 15 college graduates on our roster. When you see that, and then you see the progression from the sports performance, the team chemistry, the 4th and 1, but we have a long way to go. Yeah. As you know, when this interview started, the Sun Belt is unforgiving week in and week out. And then I think, you know, what I've come to admire, you know, from whether it was Central Michigan or Arkansas State, the other thing that people don't understand is the challenging non-conference schedules that we have to play as well. So when you look at the challenging non-conference schedule coupled with the conference schedule, it makes for a great, challenging, and exciting season.
Coach, congratulations on getting to Arkansas State. Best of luck to you guys this year, and we will see you October the 2nd in Statesboro.
Appreciate it, and I'll bring those videos of Andy Kwan.
Sounds good.
Videos of Andy Kwan.
That's good enough for the price of admission.
When that's our first one of the day, and that one was about 8 o'clock this morning,
Yeah.
when that's how you start off, and you don't, at least I didn't really know what to expect from Butch Jones, somebody that is more of a name than you're kind of used to around, but being able to see him, how he interacted, I was really impressed with him.
When we were off camera, we talked with him about Andy's last season in 2016, and that was the year that the Running Man Challenge came out. And I can remember the video that came out. It went viral of him getting the entire team fired up. We talked a little bit about Tessa Akers and her working in the recruiting department with Georgia Southern football. It's really nice to bring the experience full circle. And you always wonder with people that have worked for Nick Saban how they're going to talk about the process, because Saban is known for that famous process with 6 national championships in 12 years. That's a
That Saban coaching tree has come to the Sun Belt in full force, hasn't it?
It is. We'll get Billy Napier on a little bit later on, but right now we have the pleasure of being joined by Sun Belt Conference Commissioner Keith Gill, who just a couple of days ago inked a contract extension to keep you running the league through 2026. Wish you congratulations for that, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. Really excited about the extension. I love the Sun Belt and love continuing the work, and so it's going to be great. So thanks for having me.
Changing the venue, changing the setup a little bit. We didn't have this last year because of COVID. How has the day gone with the Sheraton being the host?
Yeah, I'd love to ask you that. I think it's been great. I love this room.
We've loved it.
Great energy. The natural light is really outstanding. I feel like the branding is great. So I've actually liked the setup, but I would be interested in kind of your thoughts and your reaction, but I think it's been terrific.
Good space, good food, good people.
Yeah, you're 3 for 3 on that.
Okay, all right. How was the fried chicken? I didn't get a piece.
That was
but-
fantastic.
Okay.
It was rock star.
All right.
Trust me, people from Southeast Georgia know their fried chicken. Trust me. This is a very important time, not just for college football, but college athletics. And for somebody in your position to be leading an FBS conference, what is that like to try to guide the Sun Belt into a new era?
Yeah, fortunately, we've got great leadership, with our ADs and our football coaches and our CEOs. And so that's helpful because people are investing, from a football standpoint, people are investing. From an NIL standpoint, people want to do great things for their, for their students and student athletes. Same when you think about Alston and all the changes. So I think it's hard, it's difficult, but fortunately we've got great schools and great people, and that makes it a lot easier.
COVID threw everything for a loop last year. We sat there in the middle of the summer. We had no idea when this got canceled. We had no idea how much we would play, if we would play. Georgia Southern extremely lucky to get in 13 games here in New Orleans, beating La Tech in the Arnell Carriers New Orleans Bowl, one of the great bowl partners that the Sun Belt has. But going into 2021, how has the league adapted its protocols for what is now involving COVID as pertains to the Delta variant?
Yeah, I think there's really 2 big changes from last year. So one has to do with how we manage games. So and this year, if a team has a COVID-related issue that prevents them from playing a game or being available to play a game, that's going to be a forfeit this year for a regular season conference game. And so last year, as you know, we rescheduled those games. We worked with folks if they didn't meet a certain threshold, and we're just not doing that this year. So this year it's going to be more like 2019. Here's the schedule, play the games, particularly from a COVID standpoint. Now we'll still manage hurricanes and weather and natural disasters and all those kind of things, but no COVID-related cancellations. Those are forfeits for the teams that are impacted. And then the second piece, I think, is in the testing protocol. So fully vaccinated individuals that aren't asymptomatic don't have to test, and they also aren't subject to contact tracing. People who aren't vaccinated do have to test in a regular regimen, and they are subject to contact tracing, and so it just makes it a little more challenging. And so really the more, one, there's a health and safety aspect of being vaccinated that I think is really important, but there's also a competitive advantage, in terms of not having the least amount of people that you can have subject to contact tracing, the better opportunity you're going to have to put a fully kind of stock team onto the field and have all your coaches, have all your players available to play.
Locally, in our case, Savannah State, a former Division I team, currently plays in the SIAC.
Okay.
Just this week, they announced that as a conference, they are mandating vaccinations.
Wow.
You mentioned in your comments to the league a little bit earlier today, the Sun Belt would not mandate vaccinations. But how can you still stress personal responsibility as we try to make our way past this whole thing?
Yeah, we're trying to educate. That's why I put in my remarks, I really encouraging folks to get vaccinated, in the strongest of terms. We're doing education with the students, also with the parents. Some of the parents are, encouraging their students not to get vaccinated. So we're trying to do education. We're trying to do what we can. We're not where we need to be. That's certainly the case. But we're hopeful that, as we kind of get closer and closer to that first Saturday in September, that, we'll have a bigger percentage of folks that have been vaccinated.
One thing that kind of came out in the college football world earlier on this week at SEC Media Days of Oklahoma and Texas talking about moving to the SEC. When you've got the potential for the conference realignment again, how does that trickle down to what the Sun Belt may or may not do, or does it affect the Sun Belt at all?
Yeah, it certainly could. We have to be prepared, because I do think if that moves happen, then there's going to be more moves that are going to be caused by that. And so we've got to be diligent and ready. And I feel like we are. I mean, we're always trying to make sure we're prepared. We like our membership, but, we're always trying to kind of understand what the landscape looks like, and so I think we're prepared to react. We've got good leadership, and if we need to, we certainly can and will. But yeah, that certainly sent shockwaves throughout, the entire college football world. That's for sure.
Geographically, there was a time where the league still had New Mexico State and Idaho. They were the danglers out there way out west, but now you've got the 10-team league, at least from a football standpoint. You have the Carolinas, you have Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas. You have the ability to say that there is a consistent geographic footprint in the Southeast.
Yes, which is great. We love being from the Texas to the Carolinas. It's great. It really fits well. It's nice being kind of the Sun Belt Conference and being in the Sun Belt. And so the geography matters. And particularly when you put it into the division play, really good rivalries. It's easy to travel within the divisions for the most part. So, we're really lucky with our footprint and with the geography that we have.
Name, image, and likeness. That has become a huge thing over the last 3 weeks, and we've seen guys maybe ink up to $1 million. We heard Bryce Young, the quarterback at Alabama, who hasn't even fully taken over as the starter yet. He has a 7-figure deal that he is now working with. What is the Sun Belt stance on the impact of this year and how you can be best prepared to help them moving forward?
Yeah, we're really excited for the opportunities for students. We want to make sure that they're educated. Anytime you sign a contract, you better make sure you know exactly what's in it.
Yeah.
And I think that, because things are happening so fast, we just want to make sure people are educated. I do think there needs to be a national standard. I think all the kind of state-by-state standards, and you guys are seeing this in Georgia. Georgia feels like the Florida law is better, and so they want to invalidate this law and create a new one. And I just think all of that change and movement is not good. To have one kind of consistent law that we can all kind of agree to, I think would be ideal.
What's it going to take to reach that?
We probably need congressional intervention, so we need some help from Congress. And so hopefully, we're all kind of working in that direction. And hopefully at some point in the not too distant future, they'll create some national legislation that gives us some consistency.
A little bit earlier on, the announcement about the expansion of the ESPN agreement, the deal now going all the way up through the 2030-31 season. It was an amazing experience for the football league last year, being on national television so much with so many teams having to knock out because of COVID. But the relationship between the Sun Belt and the ESPN family of networks appears to be stronger than ever.
Yeah, and that's a really important relationship for us. ESPN in many ways, is college football from a media standpoint. And having more opportunities, we were on ESPN maybe 25 times last year through our own package. We had like 50 to 55 like linear games through all the various packages. And so it's nice to know that they had a chance to see our product more and they want to invest in it, and so to give us more linear windows is great. So we're really excited about it, really excited about ESPN.
How much did those conversations change whenever you get more and more Sunbelt games on the linear networks last year? Because especially at the beginning of the season, when the Sunbelt was one of the few leagues still playing, how much did that help that conversation from the Sunbelt side?
I think it helped a lot. We delivered inventory to them when they didn't have a lot. We were really consistent with it. If you think about our regular season, we played 39 of 40 regular season conference games, so that's the highest percentage in FBS. And so there was a consistency there. We have a good partnership in terms of working with them to try to get the best games on TV. So I think it had a lot to do with it. Last year was a really important part of that. We were already in the middle of our deal, so there wasn't necessarily any reason to to provide more opportunities for us right now. And I think they were encouraged by the product, encouraged by what we were doing, and saw value in it. And yeah, now we have an even longer deal and more inventory.
Well, it was great for so many more people to see the trajectory of this league reach a peak. We knew about the winning percentage in bowl games, highest among any of the FBS conferences, most non-conference wins last year, but to have all of that national exposure for a Coastal team that ultimately got as high as number 9 in the country. You finished with Coastal and Louisiana, both in the CFP rankings. In fact, if the expansion had happened with this year's rankings, Coastal would have been in the college football playoff. So from your standpoint, now that things may normalize a little bit, how can the Sun Belt maintain that kind of momentum?
Yeah, so we've got two more goals. Preseason ranked. We've not had a team preseason ranked. And the reason that matters is because when you start in the rankings, it's so much easier to finish there. And so we've got a chance to have 2, maybe 3 teams preseason ranked, and that would be really important. And then that hopefully helps us to our next goal, which is New Year's 6. We've not had a team play in the New Year's 6, and that's a goal for ours, and that's what we want to do. So hopefully those are the next 2 kind of goals on the horizon that will maybe get accomplished here in 2021.
Now, a year ago, we knew that there was an expanded bowl relationship through ESPN events. There were a couple that were set for the Sun Belt, but then the other bids could have gone into a pool of other bowls that would have given the league's teams another opportunity to go to some different markets. What does that look like for 21?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same kind of setup. Now it's important for our fans to know we are guaranteed 5 bowl slots. So if you pull up the paper one morning and you see that a Sun Belt team isn't playing in the Camellia Bowl, it doesn't mean we're going to have less bowl teams.
Yeah.
It really just means that we're playing somewhere else. Like last year, Louisiana played in the Surf Pro Bowl, and First Responders Surf Pro Bowl, I think, or something like that. But anyways, that was on ABC.
Yeah.
2 million people. It's not really in our kind of primary bowl kind of bucket, but great exposure, 2 million viewers. Good opportunity for the Sun Belt.
In your State of the Conference address, one of the themes throughout the entire thing was how strong the Sun Belt was in a lot of different areas. Why was that so important to you to get across how strong the Sun Belt is right now?
Yeah, because last year was I felt like it was in some ways like a little bit of a coming out party. And it really goes back to kind of what you said in terms of all the linear coverage we had. People who didn't know the Sun Belt got a chance to get familiar with us. And really, based on what we've heard, really liked it and has a lot of respect for our football. And so I just wanted to just reinforce, what we saw last year and the excitement that we have this year. We've got a lot of big games this year. We got a chance to get off to a big start, really good start. And then, yeah, I'm just excited, and I'm just bullish on the Sun Belt. I'm biased, though. I drink the Kool-Aid, but –
Football, of course, is the focus today, but as we move back into hopefully a normal season and with the possible changing landscape of college athletics, how mindful do you have to be of all other sports that this league has to offer, even though football is the bell cow? But in your position, how mindful do you have to be of all other sports that this league has?
Yeah, I was meeting with the volleyball coaches earlier this week, so yeah, no, that's the one good thing. We're talking a little bit about the studio. That's going to benefit everyone. And in some ways, this kind of perception that we have as it relates to our brand getting better in football, there's a halo effect. I mean, it helps everyone. And so I do think a rising tide lifts all boats. And I do think I certainly have to be cognizant of the fact that there's a few more sports than just football. But, football is the one that gives us the most visibility. And so that's an important one to take care of. And we certainly need to focus on our other sports too.
We're looking forward to full stadiums, full schedules, and another successful year for Georgia Southern, of course, for the league commissioner. Thank you for your time today. Congratulations on the great event. Again, on your extension, the expansion of the ESPN relationship, and we'll hopefully catch up with you later on this year.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Sunbelt Conference Commissioner Keith Gill from the Armstrong Ballroom here at the Sheraton New Orleans for 2021 Sunbelt Conference Media Day. Always enjoy the opportunity to be able to speak with so many different people in this league. And we're now going to visit with our next Georgia Southern visiting head coach. Now get some comments from Coastal Carolina's Jamie Chadwell. Joined now by Coastal Carolina head coach Jamie Chadwell off of the best football season in the history of Coastal football, finishing number 12 in the college football playoff poll, which if we had the expanded playoff like we may be building towards in a couple of years, you would have been seriously in the discussion, but undoubtedly a dream season. And you got a great flow working right now.
Yeah, early in the season they said, "Hey, Coach, what do you want to do if we win the championship?" I was like, "Whatever you want me to do," because I had no shot of winning it. At least I didn't think we did. No faith in our team. And I said, "Yeah, I'll grow one." And so here I am. So I've been on the couch for the last 3 months. But it is what it is. It's flowing pretty good right now. So.
Going back and examining why things went the way that they did last year, what separated Coastal so substantially from everybody else?
You know what? I think the big thing is in 19 when I took over there and we took over, it was getting them to believe they could win. And in 19 there was no belief, no expectation. I think in 20, after going through that, they're like, hey, we believe we can win now. And I think we didn't have as bad of players as what people thought. Because, they stink. They saw us play the play. And I would have been the same one. I'd have been voting us last, too.
Full disclosure.
Yeah, I'm sure y'all did. So, no offense there. And, hey, they stink. They're not going to be that good. And we were better than what people thought, but we just didn't have our chemistry right. Got our chemistry right. Obviously, our quarterback took us to another level offensively. And what most people didn't realize, too, is, our defensive coordinator, he took over very late in 19. And so we were able to actually really grow that defense as well. But I think our belief in each other and in what we could accomplish was so much stronger. And then once you start to see that confidence happen, we started winning some games, and then you're like, all right, hey, we can go play with anybody, and it just starts snowballing. And as a coach, when you get that, you just like, hey, all right, you try to keep that edge, that chip on your shoulder. Like, hey, this team picked us last. These Georgia Southern radio people picked us last. We're going after them. You just use something to motivate them every week.
You talk about at the beginning of the season and the preseason, not necessarily knowing what that season was going to be. What point in the year was there a moment that you're like, this could be pretty special?
Truth be told, it was our game versus you guys. And the reason why is we come off a big win versus Louisiana. Quarterback's hurt. So we play versus a really good team, you guys, without our starting quarterback, who our starting quarterback it gotten everybody, hey, we're pretty good. And that was a tough, hard-fought game. And going into the fourth quarter, and we found a way to win it. 19, we found a way to lose those games. And that was when I told her, our staff, hey, no matter what situation, we can find a way to win it if we continue to do those things. And I think that game just, at least from a standpoint offensively, that, hey, we can find a way to win without our guy. And that gave our whole team confidence we're going to figure it out. And I think that was the big one for me that said, hey, we're going to figure this out.
For a guy that won Player of the Year, is preseason Player of the Year going into 21, Georgia Southern didn't see him. He was hurt. He had the injury. So Eagle Nation, while they've seen the numbers, they've seen some film, they probably don't fully understand what Grayson McCall represents. You're around him. How would you describe it?
Two things. He's highly competitive. The thing that he does that mesmerizes me is for a young guy, he never gets rattled. I don't know how many turnovers. I think he had 4 total turnovers this year, in 11 games or whatever for a young guy. And here's what people don't realize is very limited in the spring practice the year, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
He was quarantined all summer.
Yep.
And the first really stuff that he got going in was August. And so he's really just scratched the surface. So if he walked in last year, he looked like he was going to a country concert with a six-pack in NASCAR. He had no, looked like that guy.
They had 5 touchdowns against Kansas.
Yeah. But now he's actually been in the weight room. And I think from a physical standpoint, he's going to be a lot better. But he handles it. He handles himself where – when you have good defenses in this league, which you do, he was able to not get rattled at a young age, and that was just very impressive for our team and our staff. And there was a belief in him that, hey, no matter what situation, he's going to find a way to make a play.
Look, I'm sure that you've heard from more than enough people. You're not the hunter anymore. You're the hunted, and you're not going to sneak up on anybody. But with the way that you prepared the team last year, how can those lessons keep them in the same frame of mind to attack this season and have the kind of success that you did?
Well, I think it transitions well because last year we worked hard on playing with an edge, a chip on our shoulder, and it wasn't necessarily because we were picked last. It was more so that what we had to do to try to win games.
Sure.
And I think the last, you talk about not sneaking up on anybody. Let's say when did everybody say, hey, they're pretty good? Game 8, whatever it may be. So the last few games, we were getting attacked. because hey, we got to go, because especially after your first place in the East there, so I think that experience is actually going to help us. The main thing that we have to do, we're not good enough from a overall talent standpoint like some of these teams in this league to roll the ball out and they're going to win the majority of the time. That's not who we are. We have to do things a certain way, with a certain mindset to win games. And that's what we started establishing in 19. Obviously, you saw a lot of good about it in 20.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to have to do that. And our whole offseason, everything this whole summer was geared towards that.
I know you've probably been asked about this a million times over the last year or so, but the week where you had College game day coming to Coastal, that week was crazy for you guys, bringing in BYU at the last minute. What was that week from your perspective like? I know Kevin Davis was pretty busy that week, but what was it from your perspective? Yeah.
So, Sunday through Wednesday, we're all preparing for Liberty. Now, I think BYU might have had a heads up on it a little bit, but we're preparing for Liberty. And I'd heard a rumor, hey, is Liberty got COVID, whatever, and nobody told me anything. So Sunday through Wednesday, we get off the practice field Wednesday night and said, hey, there might be a chance Liberty's out. I'll let you know tomorrow morning. That's what our AD told me. I said, okay. So I told our staff, hey, we better get some BYU film because we had said that BYU might be in. We told our GAs just break down a couple games just to see, just in case. Thursday morning, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Hey, Liberty's out, BYU's in. Okay. And so basically all we did, it was great. All we did is we basically had a walkthrough on Thursday just as an introduction. Friday had a little bit of practice, and then Saturday, game day's doing their thing. We're actually watching game day, and we're still game planning. And we just look at each other and go, game day's right outside. So we go outside for a couple minutes and look, and then went out there and played the game. And it was that quick. Credit to them for coming out and wanting to do that. Supposedly we only had 5,000 fans there. Supposedly it was loud. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was an electric atmosphere. And regardless if you hate us, if you're a fan of us, which I know Eagle Nation hates us, you're welcome. Whether you hate us, it was a great college football game. It was a great college football game, no matter who you were cheering for. If you just watched that game and said, you know what, heck of a game. And it was. And obviously it came down to the last game, but it was two teams fighting hard, and it was a special day. And game day being there, first team ever in the Sun Belt to do that. Yeah. Who knows if we'll ever get to experience that again. I mean, that's a cool deal.
And due to other circumstances last year, that was one of the 10 times you guys were on national television last year. And the fact that you went 11-1, you at one point were a top 10 team in the country, that had to just explode that program and really the university to get that exposure that maybe wouldn't have been there in the other cases.
Yeah, I mean from a academic standpoint, from a retention standpoint, applications, enrollment, all those things are up right now. And a part of that, not the whole reason, part of it, we were on national TV a lot.
Yeah,
I mean a lot. One week we didn't get on there, and I was like, what's going on here?
They don't like us anymore.
What's going on this thing? And so we took advantage of that, and we had a window there, and who knows if we'll ever get that window again, but our team took advantage of that. One of the things I told them, I remember this when we got ranked early on, and I said, hey, we lose one game, we're done. We'll never be ranked again, we'll never be on TV. And I said, so if you like this, if you enjoy it, we got to keep winning. And they just kept it. And no matter what happened, no matter how much notoriety was coming, Tom Rinaldi came one time, and he makes everybody cry. And I was like, oh crap, we're going to be in trouble because he's doing something. And or was it Rinaldi or was it whoever it was? Anyway, somebody did it, and
somebody that's going to make you cry.
Yeah, somebody's going to do something, and it was. But our guys just kept going, and and the notoriety it brought, and all those things are positive. I think truthfully, it gave us just a huge spirit among our students and our community there in Coastal. That hey, we're proud of what this university's represent, what we're about, and you can't put a price tag on that.
Jamie, congratulations on the great season. Congratulations on the Eddie Robinson Award. I know you received that yesterday, and we're going to see you in Statesboro on November the 6th. I don't know how cold it's going to be, but looking forward to that one at Paulson Stadium.
Well, hopefully it's not a monsoon like we were down there last time.
We'll do our best.
That was brutal. But looking forward to being in Statesboro with everybody.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a monsoon.
That was-
Russ wasn't real happy about that.
Well, that was supposed to be the bad one. That was the Nestor Bowl.
Yeah.
We played New Mexico State later on. That wasn't supposed to be as bad, but it turned out to be worse.
Yeah, that's weather in Statesboro.
Now, the close-ups, a little bit, you could see that Jamie had the mullet working. Apparently, he is so committed to Coastal that he's starting to look like a Chanticleer.
Yeah, apparently Mrs. Chadwell is not real thrilled about it, though.
If he goes 11-1 again, he might want to let that thing keep rolling.
Yeah, sure.
They erupted onto the national scene last year, first ever Sun Belt team to go 11-0. Of course, they lost the Cure Bowl against Liberty, but that is a team to be reckoned with in the East Division and in this conference in 2021. We'll move ahead now to our next head coach. You'll enjoy this one. It says we step inside with Georgia State head man Shawn Elliott. Joined now in New Orleans by Georgia State head coach Shawn Elliott, who has pretty much become our de facto travel buddy. Every time we're in the airport going to media day, we either run into you or Coach Chadwell. Most of the time it's you, and we were on the same flight coming down here, so things are, I guess, back to normal.
Do you still call it the same flight when you guys are in first class and I'm back there scrunched in between two 900-pound people? I mean, come on.
Sounds like your people need to talk to our people.
I tell you what, yeah. How about we just charter our own plane, we fly together? Oh, that's
Let's
right.
do it.
Coach Lunsford did fly private, didn't he? Oh, yeah. Okay, I see. Yeah. The commoners over here, you and I, it's okay.
We're used to that by now.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Back-to-back winning seasons, first time in Georgia State history, a bowl victory a year ago again over Western Kentucky. How have you built this program?
Well, it's very simple through hard work and effort. I mean, that's exactly how it is. That's kind of my mentality. I'm kind of an energy guy. I love to work. When I'm working, I work hard. When I'm not, I'm relaxing hard. But we built it through just tough, hard-nosed work, and I guess instilling the ability to win in our guys' minds. I think they have that in their minds now. When they go out, they feel like they can go attack and conquer. It doesn't matter who we're playing. And that's something that you have to build. You just don't have that. You don't have that confidence. And I think we have that confidence.
The biggest change that we've identified since you took over in 17, you're the longest tenured coach in the league now at 5 years.
Yeah, wow.
That's hard to believe.
It is very hard.
But the biggest change since you took the reins is how much more physical Georgia State is. You're running the football, great offensive line. You've got everybody back on offense, literally all 11 starters. Adopting that physical mindset and that changeover, when did you really see that take hold?
Oh, I think, when you came in to our program, when I did, it was almost right after spring practice that very first year, because they weren't a very physical football team.
Yeah.
The offensive line was poor at that time. I was an offensive line coach. I knew where the games were really won and lost, both in the interior, so I wanted to build it from that way out, from the inside out. When we went into that first spring, it was tackle. I mean, when I say it was tackle, it was blocking, it was moving people, it was fighting, it was. They had to understand what it took to move a man from one place to another. And I think after that 15 days, we went into our spring game that year. And I remember somebody walking off and they said, "Damn, that wasn't a spring game. What were y'all doing out there? You trying to kill each other?" I said, "You got to get that mentality. You can't take a day off." And I was telling someone last night, we played South Alabama that year. We played them on a Thursday night on a short week. I didn't change a thing. We had our off day on Sunday. We practiced Monday. Tuesday was full pads. Wednesday was full pads. And then we went and played Thursday. And our team was looking at me like, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Listen, we've got to make sure you understand what we're trying to do here. We're trying to be physical. We're trying to be tough. We're trying to go out there, and we're trying to overpower people." And it's taken off since then.
What's been the hardest thing? You talk about all the change in this program the last couple of years since you took over, but what's been the hardest thing that you've seen really having to grind at to change with this program?
I don't think anything's been hard. I think, I'm a football coach. I do it because I love it. When we have the ability to recruit players that we want to have in our program, you go find the guys that you think can develop your program, can continuously build that tough, the discipline, the hard-nosed attitude, and you can go out and do that. I wouldn't say anything's been really difficult, to tell you the truth. I enjoy what I do. Sure, there's some moments in between that you have to kind of shake your head a little bit at, but it's not. It's been a great process. It's what I do. It's what we do at Georgia State, and it's what our staff's about. It's what our football program's about. I like things to be tough, so maybe that tough is the norm for me.
It was tough middle of last season. I don't want to hark on this too much, but the loss to Coastal 51-0.
Yeah.
After that, you were a different team. You won 4 of your final 5, defeated Georgia Southern late last season after the Eagles had an 11-point lead in the fourth quarter. What changed?
Nothing really changed. We had played really well prior to that game. We lost some close ones. We were playing Arkansas State, and we didn't have our defensive coordinator because of COVID protocols. And
that was a wild game.
It was very wild. I think we lost 3 games by a total of 12 points a year ago. And then the Coastal game, just for whatever reason, and I'm not afraid to say it, it just wasn't meant to be. We went out there and, we had a great opening drive and potentially missed a field, or did miss the field goal. They scored on us, and it just snowballed from there. I could have really went into that locker room after that game and really, just beat down our football team for whatever reason. But that wasn't the way to go. We were a good football team. We just didn't play very well that day. And they knew we were good or better, and we just went out and did what we were supposed to do.
This has been an offense that's had the pieces for a number of years, but Cornelius McCoy, Sam Pinckney, Destin Coates, they've all had to deal with injuries over the last couple of years. Last year, for the most part, they stayed healthy, and the results, they became even more so.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, Destin had a foot injury. Sam actually broke his hand in camp last year. I mean, I remember we were 2 weeks in, and they come and they say, Sam broke his hand. I was like, what? Another injury to this young man. He had a knee injury his freshman year. It's almost scary to think if they can stay out of that injury bug, how good they can be. They're very, very talented players. They're great young men to be around. It's just unusual to see those injuries sometimes.
Somebody that really took the Sun Belt by storm last year, Quad Brown. What has he meant to your program?
Well, Quad's got a big personality. He loves what he does. He's real similar to me in the aspect that when he comes in there, there's never a frown. There's never, I frown a lot on game day, but other than that, we go into the office and we just have a really good time. He comes to practice. You see him in the weight room. Everything is upbeat. It's motivating. It's inspiring, and he's brought that to our team. So it's an enjoyable atmosphere when Quad Brown's around, and that's why he's around a lot.
Jordan Strawn had an amazing season last year among the national leaders in sacks, but he transfers to South Carolina.
Yeah.
How do you fill that gap?
Well, I mean, you recruit. We've done that. We've got a transfer in from Wake Forest. We moved actually a quarterback to that outside linebacker dog position, and Jamil Muhammad is going to have a phenomenal year, maybe the strongest guy pound for pound on our team and one of the fastest. Didn't work out at quarterback. He was a very physical guy. So early on in camp last year, when he was actually playing the quarterback position, he kept saying, Coach, we're going live. I want to go 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 run over these guys. And I said, man, you're going to defense. And it was a slow process of learning that position, but we've got some guys that can certainly step in there. I don't think we're going to miss him all that much.
You could slice this a certain way and say you have 22 starters back, and that's unheard of to be able to say that going into a year. But at this level, with guys exercising that COVID year, super seniors have become a thing. There is so much experience back across so many teams in this league.
Yes.
But going back to something we talked about earlier, when everybody might be in the same kind of boat, how can Georgia State separate themselves?
Well, I think it's first off, injuries they play a huge role.
Sure.
You got to stay healthy, of course, but we've got when I say great leadership, we have our super seniors that were great leaders. And then that class that we have under them are leaders. In the spring, I separated the super seniors from those younger guys so they could develop and lead our team without the older guys there. I almost can go out, and in spring practice, it was almost just like this. I could watch our football team and not coach our football team because they were so experienced. It's the leadership. And it was one of the most unusual feelings because there wasn't a lot of correcting. You still had some young guys out there, but we had such great leadership that they took ownership, and it was everywhere. I mean, it was everywhere. It's in our special teams, offensive line, defensive line, the secondary, and I just kind of stood back. And, man, that's a pretty good feeling.
All right, I got one more question for you. With camp starting roughly 2 weeks from now, you going to get on the boat at some point before camp starts?
What's today? Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be on the boat tomorrow. If they would have let me had it down here, I would have brought it down here. But certainly I'm getting on that boat.
All right, 3 bowl games in 4 years. Tough schedule this year. You're facing 7 bowl teams. 6 of the squads won at least 8. You'll be in Statesboro October the 30th for an always anticipated matchup, and I know you enjoy that when we enjoy it as well, and we appreciate your time today.
Isn't it great? I tell you what, that is a great game. I mean, I think that the game between us and Southern is phenomenal. I think it builds and builds each and every year, and it's one of those things that makes college football what it is, and we really do. You know, I don't like going down there, of course.
Well, I wouldn't if I were you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, Shawn.
Yeah, man, appreciate y'all.
Well, I guess since we had to talk Georgia State, we may as well talk Georgia Southern now.
Yeah, it's time for Chad to get his shots back in.
So we have Shawn Elliott, now a guy who knows Shawn Elliott pretty well. Georgia Southern head coach Chad Lunsford, now the second longest tenured head coach in the league.
How about that?
Shawn's the longest at 5. You're 4 years and 6 games.
Man, that's amazing.
That's hard to believe.
Really hadn't even thought about it like that.
Well, the fact that there's been some turnover, but there's also been a lot of success in the league.
Yeah. I actually was thinking about that with Shawn yesterday. I actually said something to him. I said, "Man, you should run the Sunbelt meetings for us and everything because you're obviously the oldest guy on in
He's
the group
the dean
now."
of the coaches.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it's it's just football, man. It ends up changing year in, year out, and been blessed to be at Georgia Southern going into my 4th year and just going to enjoy every moment.
And we mentioned with him that camp's roughly 2 weeks away, depending on who you are. But in a setting like this, where the season hasn't quite started yet, everybody's in a good mood because everybody's 0-0. It's nice to see the coaches in a different environment because you're relaxed, and it's not as if you have a game tomorrow. You can at least relate to each other and probably catch up, especially you and Shawn. I know you guys are good friends.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we got great coaches in this league, and to be honest with you, I mean, there's so many opportunities throughout the year when we have these types of things, functions, whatever, to get that chance to talk. But, to be honest with you, and we probably don't do it enough, I mean, we do have the ability to talk, even when we're not having these functions. And, I mean, there's so many great coaches, you can bounce ideas off of one another. And obviously you can't give away schemes and all that type of stuff, but, how you're handling your program, how you're handling different situations and things like that. So very thankful to be around these guys.
Last year, with as nuts as the COVID season was, how much more valuable was the idea of building relationships?
That's always been important in our program. That was the thing that when I was, blessed enough to get the job, that I wanted to make sure we did as a staff and then as a program and with our guys and all that type of stuff. But, I do believe that the pandemic allowed for there to be more connection after the fact. However, during the pandemic, I think there was a lot of connection with immediate family that maybe you don't get in the past because you're working so much. And, so I think there are some good things that came out of it for sure. That ability to reconnect, maybe revitalize some of your relationships that maybe you haven't done a good job with. And so there's always silver lining in everything that goes on.
We've talked about this with a couple of people already today, but the fact that this league not only is off of its best season as a league in the 20 years it has existed, but the fact that so many guys are back for every team. Where does Georgia Southern find a way to separate from the other 9 teams in this league with that in mind?
Well, I can't speak on the other teams. I know that they've got a lot of good players coming back, and a lot of teams have a lot of depth coming back. But I like the mindset of our football team right now. I think that you don't see a team, and again, what time will tell, but I don't think you see a team that was like satisfied with going 8-5 and winning the New Orleans Bowl. Yeah. I mean, we're going to look back and we're going to go, man, 2020, that's what it was, and we overcome a lot, and there's some great things that came out of it. But I think there's more like, man, we could have been a 10-11 win football team. And we let some games slip away. I think that's more the mentality. I think there's a lot more suffering from those losses than there were from, the wins.
That was a fun day, though. That December the 23rd, not too far away from here, over at the Superdome, just thrashing Louisiana Tech to finish up at 8-5, get another bowl ring, get to 3-1 in bowls all time. But with a lot of those guys back, still hungry, still motivated to improve even more on 8 wins, it seems like that will put you in a pretty advantageous position.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and the way we won the bowl game, to me, was a great springboard into 21.
Yeah.
We had played close, tight football games all year. We had done some things that, we try not to have Eagles beat Eagles, but that was happening throughout the season, and would put us in some situations where games were closer than they needed to be,
Sure.
or we didn't finish some games that we could have won against some powerful teams. But to win the way we did in the bowl game kind of just gave us a new breath. And, I think the guys showed their ability, their poise, and what Georgia Southern football should look like.
One of the new things that you've started here in 2021 is the number 1 jerseys. The 2 guys that are here representing Georgia Southern, Todd Bradley Glenn, J.D. King, those are the guys that were chosen to wear that number 1. What does that mean to this program now?
Well, I think the number 1 jersey has to be earned. It's really hard to just say you're going to be number 1. Now, I wouldn't ever say you wouldn't give it to a new guy. You wouldn't give it to a freshman or a recruit coming in, because, I mean, we've done that in the past at Georgia Southern. However, the way things unfolded in spring, the way spring semester kind of went, it gave us an opportunity to open up that number 1 and give it to some people that had earned it. I challenged the media today when I was on the first thing to, if you talk with J.D. King and Todd Bradley, really dig into them and find out their personal stories. When you start going through Todd Bradley's career, even before he got to Georgia Southern and beating cancer and then ACL injuries and then J.D. being at Oklahoma State, transfer, and now going through an ACL. Those guys exemplify what Georgia Southern men are about, and they've earned that right to wear number 1.
They're such great stories. They're such great people. With Todd now in a leadership position, truly in year 6, and I think about that. He was here in 2016. He's going into his 6th year here, and for JD, I wish we could have had him for his first couple of years. But to know that he was leading the league in rushing at the time of the injury, and he still was 3 weeks later. There was a shot that he was going to be in the Player of the Year running had he been able to finish 2020. So from that standpoint, both extremely motivated going into this final season.
For sure, and to be honest with you, Todd has 2 years left. He does have a medical, but now he's not doing it. I mean, this is the last dance, if you want to say, for him, because that's what he wants it to be. But Todd's a special story. JD, I pray that he gets his full season. He's back. I do feel strongly that he'll be better than ever. But the way he was going last year, he was going to do something special, and I know he's really worked hard for that, and I want that to happen for him.
Stay with the backfield for a moment, because it was 2 years before that Logan got hurt, JD filled in. This past year, JD gets hurt, Logan Wright, outstanding down the stretch, better than 6 yards a carry. That's where he's been his entire career. You enter the season with a loaded backfield, which is the case most of the time, and you're going to run it somewhere between 45 and 50 times per game. With all those hungry mouths, how do you make sure everybody gets fed?
Well, I think you look at it, we're going to play 2 to 3 running backs in every set,
Yeah.
But when you start looking at an Amari Jones, I mean, he's going to be able to line up at receiver. He's going to be a slot into the running back. There's just different ways of getting those guys the ball and getting them on the field at the same time. You may see Amari at quarterback some. I mean, that's, he was a high school quarterback, and, so that there's just different ways. But, there's going to be a wear and tear on our running backs because of what we do and how physical we play. So we've got to try to keep them fresh. Man, I'm so fired up to have those guys in that room, because we're going to be able to plug guys in first quarter, then second quarter, then third quarter, and then, hey, now it's time to go finish this football game in the fourth quarter. And to have a running back room like that and what we do on offense, I think it fits well.
I know you've talked about it a little bit in the last couple of months, but you talk about the running back room and you bring Fabian Upshaw in to coach them. Somebody that you've got a special relationship coaching him when he was a player at Georgia Southern. What has he brought to that running back room?
Well, I tell you, we lost a good running back coach in Chris Foster.
Yeah.
And we lost more than running back coach. I mean, he was associate head coach. I mean, he was my right-hand man. So when we started deciding, hey, we're going to go, we're going to look for a running back coach, I thought it would be a bad move to try to replace Foster. I didn't think that was the right thing because that's hard to replace, right? And we had interviewed Fabian for the wide receiver job, actually. And, we didn't go that direction. We went with Coach Sherman. And Fabian impressed us so much. And then he'd already had his, time coaching with Coach Roos and all that. So Coach Roos had a good feel. But he really – because he's always impressed me as a player. And then he impressed me, just listening about his work ethic and all that. But I thought it was a great time for him to get this opportunity because we needed more Georgia Southern men, Georgia Southern guys that understood Georgia Southern. And I think that's what we've done on the offensive staff. When you look at Coach Roos, you look at Coach Sherman, you look at Coach Upshaw, and Coach Wade is obviously hadn't been at Georgia Southern, but he has the ties with Coach Alex Atkins. So I thought Fabian ended up being a great fit, and he's actually exceeded expectations since he's got there. Real cool, calm demeanor for a young guy, a real hard worker, which we knew, and very knowledgeable about Coach Roos's offense.
You brought up quite a few staff additions for 21. Also, Joe Graves, who initially was going to coach running backs, but now he's going to handle special teams and tight ends, a couple of new members of the support staff. With all of those new moving parts, how did you make sure that it all fit into what your vision is?
Well, I thought it was important. We were making changes, but what you didn't want to do was bring too many people in that didn't understand the culture of Georgia Southern. And I felt like we brought enough people that really have either been here before, played here, understood what it needed to be about, that you could in other positions bring in guys that hadn't been here or ladies, And so there's a good mixture. And when we come to work every day, man, there's such a awesome, positive vibe with our staff. Everybody works well together. And everybody understands, we're going into every single game to win these things, man. We're not going into this thing just to play it close or anything like that. We're going to try to win these football games, and I think everybody understands the expectations at Georgia Southern.
The one that you always get asked about, whether it's a pressing issue or if it's a known situation, is who's going to be the quarterback in an option system. With Shy Wertz deciding to go to Louisville to finish up his eligibility, we know that Justin Tomlin has been not really named the starter, but he's appearing to be in position to take that role moving forward. It's still a loaded room, even with James Graham moving to wide receiver. That doesn't mean he won't be asked to play quarterback at some point.
For sure. Justin has really worked hard to put himself in position to be the starting quarterback. I just think for our team right now, because it's not a 4-year starter, we're going to miss Shy. I mean, it's hard to replace a 4-year starter, you know what I mean? But I just think for our team right now, anytime you lose a 4-year starter, you can't just sit there and say, okay, here's the guy. No, this needs to be open competition. We need to see who the best guy is, who has it in him. Now, if JT ends up being the guy, I don't have any questions about that guy. I mean, he's been put in some tough situations where he was brought into games that probably he wasn't put in for success. But when you saw him, when he knew that he was the guy, when you look at FAU and how he played in that game, and then started the App State game before he got hurt,
sure.
He was really getting in a groove in that game. So I have if JT ends up being the starter, man, I'll be so happy for that guy, and I know he'll do a great job for us.
We've gotten this deep, and we haven't talked much defense, and that's a unit that led the country in turnovers forced, led the country in interceptions. Derek Canteen, a big reason why, led the country with 6 interceptions, the only member of Georgia Southern's team that's a preseason first-team All-League member, and somebody that wasn't necessarily ticketed to start at corner going into last year, but he made his presence felt very early starting against Campbell.
Yeah, our defense has been really good, since I've been the head coach here. Coach Sloan and the defensive staff does a tremendous job with our guys and getting our guys ready to play. I think maybe just looking at the all Sunbelt selections, we're probably a little bit underrated, and I could see why. I mean, you lose a Rashad Byrd, you lose a Raymond Johnson, you lose guys like that. I mean, I can see that. But Derek Canteen reminds me of Kendall Vildor.
Yeah.
He reminds me of a guy that's really worked and earned all of that. But when you start talking about the other positions, when you start talking about linebacker, man, I'm fired up about. I mean, you got Todd Bradley, you got Trey Allen, you got John Ferguson, you got the sneakers into this that's going to sneak up on people are Kadri Jackson and Kevon Glenn.
Yeah.
You know, you never know what you're going to get with a transfer, but those two guys have stepped right in, and there's no entitlement. I mean, they just go to work. They seem like Georgia Southern men to me, and I think you're going to see a big-time play out of our linebackers just because of the depth we added with those two guys.
You talk about Derek Canteen on that defensive side. You had so many guys that had to step up as young players and really do well for you guys, especially on the defensive side and that secondary. What does that say about the development process that especially the defensive side, but really this entire football team has?
Well, last year was the year of next man up, and we always talk about next man up, but last year was truly that.
We thought it was 18, but last year blew it out.
Yeah, no question. And so it was great, though, because we were able to play some guys, get some experience with guys, and they really did a good job when it was time for them to step up and play. Very proud of a Bird Song and an Anthony Wilson. Those two guys really helped us in that defensive secondary at safety and really finished the season off right. So I feel good about where our defensive is for sure.
44 days from now, it all begins again. Allen E. Paulson Stadium, 6 o'clock kick. Georgia Southern and Gardner-Webb for the first time since 2002. Hopefully the stadium is going to be as packed as it can be with full capacity having been announced during the summer, but we can't wait to get back at it. I'm sure you're feeling the same way.
No question. I can't wait to get back in the stadium. It's going to be 100% capacity. The power of Paulson's real. And, you know, Coach Cunningham is a graduate of Gardner-Webb, and so I know that's a little special to him too. So we're ready to get back at it. We really are.
Chet, thanks a lot. Appreciate you being here today, and we'll catch up with you many, many times this season.
No wrestling questions today, huh?
How's your arm?
My arm's great.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were going to beat Cujo or not.
I dominated that arm wrestling. I mean,
You
the guy
didn't dominate it.
Dude, he tried to bump me first, and it went here, and then you saw the table.
He didn't dominate him. He didn't dominate him.
Pull it up on YouTube and play it right now. That was a domination.
You could pull it up on the ride back.
Now, I will say that after there was, but hey, we finished high fours. It was all good.
We'll see you back at Statesboro.
Thank y'all. GATA.
Thanks, Chad. You know, the relationship that we have with our head coach is unlike any other in the FBS. It really is.
Oh, there's no doubt. No doubt.
Got another coach coming up, right?
We do.
The reigning West Division champion 3 times over, Eagle Nation. Here's Louisiana head man Billy Napier. Continuing from New Orleans, joined by the head coach of the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns, Billy Napier, our second Nick Saban assistant of the day. Also, your birthday yesterday, so we wish you a happy belated birthday. It's always nice to catch up with you.
Yeah, 42 years young, right? I joke around, if I grow my beard out, I got a lot of gray hair, and tell people coaching football is easy. This 9-year-old little girl I got, she's why I got all that gray hair. So 2 boys are easy, but Andy Joe's a handful.
You've made coaching football very easy for the Cajuns the last 2 years. 21 victories, back-to-back double-digit win seasons. That has never happened in the history of Cajun football. How has this process been so successful in Acadiana?
Well, it's been a lot of fun to be a part of. I think we got dynamic leadership. I think our university president, T. Joe Savoy, had a vision. Our athletic director, Dr. Brian Maggard, really to see him execute the plan, right? I think we've invested. We've created an infrastructure. They've given us resources to go hire really good people. And in general, I think, what is leadership? You take a vision and you translate that into reality. And it's been fun to work alongside those guys to be under their leadership. And, a little bit at a time, we're always trying to get to make improvement. And we've stayed focused on that. I think breaking it up throughout the year, phase by phase. And certainly, I think we're in position, maybe the best group of players that we've had since we've been here. Whether or not we can get them to play as well, I don't know. But really pleased. We've got a good core group of veterans and an influx of young talent. So should be a fun year.
10 starters back on offense for a unit that was 12th in the country in yards per carry, 10 starters back on defense that was 6th nationally in pass defense. That's got to make you feel even better going into the year.
Yeah, I think we're fortunate. Good group of super seniors, not too many. I think we've got 8 guys. But amongst that group, the quarterback, the nose guard, one of our inside backers, one of our safeties, some really core veteran players that have experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Their career really reflects the progress that's been made. So I think they've got an understanding and appreciation of how far we've come. I think that's where we're going to benefit from is the leadership on our team. They've experienced the failure along the way, right? Hopefully we've banked those lessons and we've used those, and they can help lead the team. I think ownership at the player levels are really, really important. But those veterans, not only their production on the field, but their ability to use the lessons from the past to affect the team, I think is the most important part.
We've talked about the term super senior already, but Ken Marks is going into year 7. Is there another word we need to invent for that? I can't think that's going to happen too much across college athletics.
I call him Grandpa.
There you
go. I call him. But, Ken is, first of all, Ken's extremely impressive young man, right? He's intelligent. He's articulate. He's a guy that's made the most of his experience. I'd hire him. I think he's that kind of guy. So we're pleased with him being back. He's always been a very productive player for us and certainly in position to finish his career the right way.
We've talked about it a lot on different things, but for somebody on the outside looking in, it's a lot of fun to watch Levi Lewis when you're not playing him.
Yeah.
What is it about his game that has really made him so spectacular in Louisiana?
Well, I think the guy is he's just a very unique young man. He's from Scotlandville, Louisiana. He's a product of his environment, right? If you met his family, just really impressive way he was raised, what he's about, his character, his ability to keep things in perspective, to stay humble, to continue to work. He's really bought into our way of doing things in terms of the process and how he prepares. He's a relentless worker. And he's really a unique guy, right? I think he's, 5'8" and change, but he weighs close to 195 pounds. He's got big hands, long arms, a big trunk. He can really run. His change of direction, ability to make you miss. I think he's really improved as a passer and an overall as a processor. We ask him to do a lot in our system. So, his ability to affect the other people on the team is at the top of the list, right? So, we say that the quarterback is the standard bearer of the organization, right? You should reflect everything that we're about. We're fortunate to have him in position to do that.
Maybe more so on him this year with Trey Regis, Elijah Mitchell finishing up their eligibility. But from the standpoint of Georgia Southern, the Eagles saw what Chris Smith could do last year, what Imani Bailey could do last year. I remember him breaking that long run into the red zone to set up a touchdown. So it's not as if you're in a difficult spot. It's just in a spot where maybe there's not a ton of experience, but it's still a lot of ability.
Yeah, Chris Smith has played throughout the last couple of years. We're fortunate that he was the kick returner.
Sure.
So he's used to the limelight. He's used to having to prepare to play. We gave him carries last year at times. He was kind of the third guy in that 3-man rotation that we use. So I think he's chomping at the bit to be the marquee guy. And he's had an incredible offseason. Some of these GPS numbers that he's been putting up are unbelievable. So he's gained weight. He looks really good, and I think he's primed to take advantage of the opportunity.
You talk about him being a big returner for you guys, but one of the things that probably doesn't get talked a whole lot about at Media Day is special teams a lot of times. But Phil Steele, I think, has you guys at number 7 in the country of your special teams unit. What has made that unit what it has been in Louisiana?
Well, we make it a priority. I really believe that it's where you start when you want to build the culture on your team. You start with special teams. We call them game changers, right? So it's a big part of our culture in terms of what we do. It's oftentimes the first opportunity that you get as a young player, right? it's a combination of offense and defensive players playing at the same time. Oftentimes maybe you're the fifth best inside backer, you're the seventh receiver, you're the fourth running back. What we try to do is create as many roles as possible on our team. Our belief is that the more players that know they're going to play and they're on that bus headed to the stadium, the better chemistry, morale, and energy that you have. So we try to create roles for players. We work hard at it throughout the entire year. We allocate time for it. We've got really good leadership in that area. And our staff takes tremendous pride in it. So I think it's a big part of what we do. We've been fortunate. We always go to the park saying, hey, let's make a few game-changing plays today. We've been fortunate to do that. So it is an area where we need to improve and be more consistent, but it impacted a lot of the games that we played last year.
This program has gone from the top program in this league to struggling towards the end of the Mark Hudspeth era. You come in, go 7-7. Since that start, though, you're 21-3 in your last 24 games. At what point did you feel your message, your process really start to take hold?
Well, I think that first year we were an awful football team, the first half of that first year. I think we had a lot of good parts, but we weren't much of a team. We had obvious issues from a personnel standpoint, but in general, I think we found a way to beat Arkansas State. I think it was a shootout. It was like 45-42 at about the halfway point. They were picked to win the West. They were picked to win the league that year. And I think that at that point I was just like, man, I hope we can have some success here at the end of the year so that they'll buy into this work, because we work, So then all of a sudden, okay, hey, we put together a few wins. We start to improve our play, and I think they bought into that work, right? And we made a little run there at the end of the year, won the West, got in the championship game, gave App, I think played App to a 10-point championship game, and then got into a bowl game. So in general, I think that's when it, became real. Hey, look, this is working, right? And we need to continue that trend. So, but each year is a different year, right? It's 2021. This is a new team. It's a new year. It's a new set of challenges and opportunities. We've got an entirely different group of players, a new staff dynamic, and a lot of roles to be determined. So that's what's fun about it. It's what I love about it, right? Everybody's got a smile on their face today.
Everybody's undefeated today.
Everybody's 0-0, and everybody's got a lot of confidence in what they can do. So, we got a week and a half left of summer. We're going to try to finish strong, and then we'll transition into training camp here, give the players a couple days off, and staff's back at it on Monday.
This West Division has 3 new head coaches. You're the clear favorite in the West. We've already talked about the exploits of the last couple of years and how well that this team has done. With so many guys back that have already experienced that success, how do you take that next step, added motivation, to become maybe the top G5 program?
Well, I think that, you'd like to think that your team isn't motivated by external factors. I would like to think that we've created an expectation in terms of how we prepare, how we work. I think we're benefiting from having a core group of veteran players that believe in what we do and how we do it. Our approach is really to break the year up into phases. We've got 8 phases that we work our way through. I think it's a lot easier to get young people to work kind of 1 month at a time, maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks at a time. We have individual goals. We have very specific objectives and goals for the position groups, the team in general. And then we kind of erase the board and start over. So we've executed the foundation, the identity, spring practice, our discretionary period, May, summer 1 and summer 2, and then, here we go into training camp. So in general, I think that's our approach. We worry about the work that we have to do today relative to the phase that we're in. And hopefully all of that adds up, and the key is to get the players to buy into what we do today is going to affect how we can play when given the opportunity to compete in the fall.
Didn't get a chance to do this last year because of COVID. We enjoyed catching up with you, and we will see you in Statesboro on September the 25th. Appreciate the time.
All right, guys. Thank you all.
Thanks, Billy. A happy birthday indeed for Billy Napier.
It's been a happy birthday kind of week because isn't Dr. Maggard's birthday today, I think I heard?
Yeah, I think you're right. And it was just yours a couple days ago.
That too.
How old are you?
I don't remember.
You
27.
You want to reveal that one?
No.
You want to tell Legal Nation that one?
I'm 27, I think.
We are back with live coverage of the 2021 Sunbelt Football Media Day from the Sheraton New Orleans, Georgia Southern player portion of the program. We have got J.D. King back for another season in the blue and white. Really happy that you're here. Really happy that you get another chance to do it again.
Excited to be here. Excited to be here, really.
All right, switching up the number from 15 to 1. We know that you and Todd are the two number ones this year. How did it go down that you became one of the two number ones?
We had a similar question like this earlier. It was kind of like some coincidental thing. So, like, because Lunsford made it seem like it was like more of a role thing. So, like, and then I just told him straight up, like, I mean, I don't really care what number I wear. I'm not going to wear 84. But
well, you got to be legal. You got to
yeah,
touch the ball.
yeah, sir. But, you know, I mean, as long as it's, like, for the team, he understand that, like, I'm not that type of guy that's going to, like, change his whole way of, like, change the way I move just because of a number. And since he respected that and he understood that, so I was like, okay, I'll get one. And, you know, so that's how that kind of went.
All right, we're a couple of weeks away from fall camp starting. Being around your teammates as much as you are, what would you say the personality of this year's team is?
I'll say outgoing, because I feel like everybody in every position, every angle of the team, the coaches from the training staff to the equipment staff, they trying to, you know, be better and chase something, you know, greater than what we were in the previous years, because they know, like, we got our flaws, but we got a lot of good things that we could chase and that we got the opportunity, to win more games.
How do you think going through the events of last year made you guys stronger?
Well, adversity always makes people stronger. So the more adversity, so that just made us 10 times stronger, and it just shows people that we can't be broken, because they look at us and be like, well, we have people going through this, we have coaches going through this, we lose coaches, we lose players, and we still manage to, come out on top in a lot of situations. And that says a lot for Coach Lunsford and, people like Dr. Harris on our team, like developing players and helping us, fight through adversity.
You mentioned the adversity, part of what you had to go through last year, getting injured about halfway through the season, missing the back half of the year. How much more excited does that make you to go into 2021 and get back on the field?
I just look at it as if, like, we finished the year and it was just a long off season for me, and then it was a win-win for me, to critique my body, get my body, my playing style, down packed, and, establish myself as a leader on the field and on the, off the field.
You didn't play the final 6.5 games last year, and you still finished 8th in the league in rushing. How much better have you gotten since last year, and what areas do you think you've improved in the most?
Just the learning the whole criteria of the game, developing my mindset of the game. I was watching, observing a lot of things, because I know, like, I'm a hands-on type of guy, but, like, you got to see it, and then the hands-on part, start to fall into place. So I feel like, I'm a better football player mentally, because, I mean, I know I can do stuff physically.
Sure.
So, but, like, the mental aspect there has to be there at all times to stay level-headed.
It's a loaded backfield again. I know that Matt transferred out, but Logan's back. You bring in Amari. There are so many different options, pun intended, for this offense to remain as one of the nation's best at running the football. But as someone coming back for your final go-around, what's your role in this offense?
I feel like my role this year is just to, just be consistent, to come back and be not like I was, but better. And with me being better, I feel like I could push everybody else to be better because no matter where I'm going to be on the field, I feel like I can help the man on the left and the right of me, be the best player they can be on the field. And that's my goal.
We talked about it with Coach Lunsford about what Fabian Upshaw has brought to that running backs room. But for you being one of the leaders in that room already, what has he helped you with going into 2021?
He just been helping me embrace the role of a leader because he understand like since he was coming in, this is his first season, and he realizes that he didn't try to come in and change anything. He just he just grew with us. So and that's what I liked about him, and he just he not if he says something, he means it. If he don't have anything to say, he not gonna say anything, and that's what I like. So majority every time he's talking, you know, we just know for a fact. As soon as he open his mouth, it's gonna be genuine. So
Last summer, we all sat around wondering if there was going to be a season. End up playing 13 games, end up winning 8 of them, end up winning a bowl game in New Orleans, not too far away from where we are currently sitting. How much pride did you guys take in being able to not only finish the season, but to play every game on your schedule?
I mean, that's just putting it back on Coach Lunsford's shoulders. It just shows like what type of coach he is, how he gonna hold us accountable, and then what type of team we have to buy into that. The discipline, the focus, just staying away from the outside distractions.
All right, one final thing before we let you go and bring in Todd. What's been your favorite part of your first media day?
Probably. I mean, probably the just meeting the other players from other teams because I was talking to Todd and I was like, "Dang, bro, I just you don't know them guys, and you'll think they just you just hate them, and then I'd be like, why I hated them? I don't even know them. Then you get to know them, then you be like, oh, they pretty cool, but I'm gonna hate you in a couple weeks."
It's going to begin again September the 4th against Gardner-Webb. 6 home, 6 road. Hopefully Georgia Southern finds its way back to the top of the East Division and a chance to compete for a championship. JD, really appreciate the time. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch up with you very, very soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
J.D. King, fifth-year senior coming out of Fitzgerald, transferring in a couple of years ago from Oklahoma State. And we think back to 2019 when we were all waiting around before the season wondering if he was going to be eligible going into the year. We find out 12 days before kickoff against LSU that he was going to be added to the backfield. Unfortunately for Logan Wright, he gets injured against South Alabama, but J.D. took full advantage of that opportunity and has become one of the most valuable members of that backfield the last 3 seasons.
I remember the day that we found out that he was eligible. We were at dinner when it happened, and we had just recorded the podcast for the next day. And let's just say we had to go back and record a completely new podcast because that changed a lot of what we were talking about.
That was one of the latest evening editions of Inside Eagle Nation, which is now 140 deep. We can listen back to this week's edition from a couple of days ago. We'll have another edition coming up next Tuesday as we are about to start previewing fall camp, which comes up in 2 weeks. But now back with Sunbelt Conference Media Day, the other number one for Georgia Southern football in 2021, Todd Bradley Glenn. Year 6 in this program. It's hard for me to believe that this is your 6th year here, but the fact that you're still here and you're now in a position to be a true leader of this team, that's got to be a pretty compelling thing for you.
Yes, sir. It's definitely just a blessing to still be here, still be around, and just how things played out. So I just thank God for the opportunity and just the position I'm in. And just my mindset and how much I've done grown these last 6 years.
How often do you think about that journey, everything you've had to go through, going back to high school, making it to Georgia Southern, grinding the way that you have, coming back time and time again to now get to this season?
I mean, every day, because it's like when stuff get hard, it's like, why would I quit now? I done been through all this stuff. It's just like ain't no reason to quit, ain't no reason to give it up now, just finish it out, So that's kind of what I just drive me, that struggle. So I just keep going and, I try to encourage my other brothers who going through stuff or stuff I've been through. I try to use myself as an example and how I'm still here, you see how things turned out for me. I just kept pushing and pressing.
All right, going to go down a little side road. When I think about your journey, One of the things I think about is a piece that Maggie Tyler did a couple of years ago talking about your journey up to that point. There's been a couple of chapters added to that story since then, but a big part of that was the relationship with you and Seth Schumann, who at the time was on the Georgia Southern football
Yeah.
team, now pitching in professional baseball. What does that relationship still mean to you right now whenever you get to see what he's success in pro ball and you still here at Georgia Southern?
It's everything, that's my boy, from Valdosta to, forever, we talk about everything together, he been with me since 6th grade, so that's my dog, he up there in Detroit pitching, I always call him here and there, he'll call me, and, he always there for me, I'm always there for him, and I just can't wait to see him, do great things, and I think he probably gonna come up to a couple games. He get some off time, and I'll go out there and see him pitch. But that's my brother, for life.
He keeps throwing like he is. You may have to go somewhere else to see him. He may be going to double A.
I can't wait. I can't wait, man. It's gonna be crazy.
You, of course, were teammates at Valdosta High School, and going back to the whole idea of you and JD wearing number 1, you wore one when you were in high school.
Yeah, I did. Like down there, like number 1's like a big thing. It's like the face of the program. Like if you wear one, you that guy, and you just represent and embody the whole program. They got a lot of history, and I kind of feel like that's the same thing coming here. Like you don't just give it to anybody. You gotta be a Georgia Southern man to put that one on. So.
Valdosta is nicknamed Title Town.
Yeah.
One of the most successful high school football programs in the entire country. And you come to a place in Georgia Southern that's won 6 national championships and had so much success over a 40-year span. How did the high school experience prepare you for Georgia Southern?
I mean, it was kind of like a mini college, I feel like, especially like the football part with just the game planning and how you was brought up, like a lot of the stuff, like just game day stuff we did in high school, and you'll get here, like if you come from like down south that area and you'll come to a college, a lot of the kids, like they don't get that experience. It's like a lot of stuff be new to them, like weightlifting, a lot of like game plan stuff be new, watching film and stuff be new to them, but it's like that's just what we do. Like we thought it was regular, to do all that. So it really just prepare your mind, and it's not that big of a jump as far as coming from a school that don't have a lot of that stuff. So
we talked about you wearing number 1 and being more of a leadership role this year for Georgia Southern football. You've learned from a lot of really good leaders on that defensive side, especially. You look at Rashad Bird, Raynard Ellis, different guys that have been a part of this program. Who are some of the people that you've really learned how to be the leader from that you've got to be this year?
I say I think Bird. I lean on some guys in the past like Josh Moon. I think he was a guy I looked up to a lot, and he really brought that energy. And if Moon say do something, you go do it. It might be wrong, but we go be on the same page together. So you don't blink twice, So I think that's kind of like the effect like I be having on some of the young guys. Like even if I call something wrong, they go believe me. Like if I'm right or wrong, you know what I mean? Because they just believe I know what I'm doing. So, So I really like Josh. That's probably one of my favorite guys in the past to watch and lead from.
For some of the younger guys on this team, to understand from their standpoint what you've gone through, what you've had to deal with to still be here, to get one more opportunity, how much do you think you inspire them?
Hopefully they just hear my story and learn from it. Like, and I tell them all the time, like I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed that it played out this way. There's a lot of times I thought about, man, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? But I just kept going, and things kept getting better. So I try to express that to them, even when they're going through a hard time, if they're going through a hard time in school, if they get hurt or something like that. I just try to tell them to keep going, and if things don't just keep going one more day at a time, see if things get better, And most of the time, things get better, especially like your mindset in the right place. And so I just try to encourage them to have their mind in the right place and think positive, you know what I mean?
How excited are you for this season?
A lot, man. I can't wait, man. The guys on defense, we just feel like we got something to prove. I feel like us as a team got something to prove, and last year we let a couple slip away, and we feel like we're right there, and we just got to finish.
I don't know if there are two guys on this team that could have better represented this program and what it's about than you and JD. Hope you've enjoyed your time in Media Day. We appreciate the time. Safe trip back to Statesboro, and we'll catch up with you here pretty soon. Season starts soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Todd Bradley, Glenn, JD King, two great players, two great people, and two we enjoy talking to as part of 2021 coverage of Sunbelt Football Media Day from the Sheraton, New Orleans. We do have a couple of more Georgia Southern opponent head coaches to get to, and we will move forward with that. A guy we didn't get a chance to visit with 2 years ago because Georgia Southern didn't play them. Of course, didn't have the event last year when they finally got back on the schedule. But Eagle Nation, here now is Texas State head coach Jake Spavital. Back now visiting with Texas State head coach Jake Spavital, entering year 3 leading the Bobcats, but because Georgia Southern and Texas State didn't play in 19 the last time we did this, we haven't had a chance to visit with you yet, so it's nice to finally sit down with you. Appreciate your time today.
Yeah, looking forward to this kind of next few days. I do say that you guys got the fanciest technology out of all the radio booths right now with your video feeds, so no, man, look, was fun to go to Georgia Southern last year, and I'm telling you, that tailgate is a pretty remarkable deal, especially during COVID and everything. You see the passion and the pride of that university, and really been enjoying my time in the Sun Belt, going around to these universities to watch and get in there, and with all the tradition of you guys have had in the past, it was fun to take part of that this year.
That turned out to be a tight game in Statesboro last year, a 40-38 final, and I know it was a story of close games, close losses last year, leading to a 2-10 season, but if you look at it another way, you guys were that close to being a 500 team.
Yeah, that
Very
was kind
close.
of the story of everything. Like, you go back at that Georgia Southern game, I told the team the entire week, I was like, listen, this is going to be a minimal possession game. You know, you got to take advantage of your opportunities because, you know, the offensive style of play that you guys have is really tough to go up against. And I think we had 9 offensive possessions in the first half. Like it was just like completely opposite of everything that I told. And then so I think we had 9 if I'm correct, and then we went into the second half and we had 4.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just like, wow. You know, it was just one of those really fun games to be a part of. A lot of kind of freak things. We snapped the ball over our punter's head, and then we returned the kickoff on the next one, and there was interceptions and turnovers, and there was injuries that were kind of bizarre in that game. And
You had a linebacker throw a pass in that game?
yeah,
fake punt.
that's a whole nother story. We can get into that, but he'll never live that one down. But yeah, it was a bizarre game. But you know, you look at our whole team and where we were at. You know, we were very, like I always say, there's about 3 to 5 plays that really determine the outcome of a game, and we're sitting there probably around 15 plays away from probably being a 6-6, 8-4 team, arguably on where we're at. And I think there were good, valuable teaching moments of that and lessons with our kids. I remember the talk in the Georgia Southern game, afterwards, and they knew that, it's a lot of it's on us. We got to be able to play smart football, and because I do think this league is very good and very well coached, and there's not very many mistakes made. And we got to get to a point at Texas State where we don't beat ourselves. And once that happens, I think we'll be a lot better.
And you talk about being so close to being that 6-6, 8-4 that you mentioned. How much, one, does it kind of motivate you that you're that close to getting to where you want to be, but also how do you keep everybody involved of, hey, it's just one more play, it's one more time you've got to do this to be able to get to that point?
Yeah, and the one more play is, that's a lot of coach speak, but, it's so true. You look at, the Boston College game that we were in, when we were doing so well and we weren't thinking about it. We were just worrying about the play at hand, and then we got into the fourth quarter and it's 21-7, and you could see us kind of tighten up a little bit, and we started making mistakes that we didn't make in the previous 3 quarters, and that it adds up. I got to get to the point where these guys have a short-term memory. They move on to the next play and they just focus on the task at hand instead of dwelling on the past mistakes and letting that kind of accumulate in that snowball effect. So. There's a lot that goes into coaching with that, and I do think, with last year and the eligibility freeze and where's that, I think the experience that we got, and because we played 12 games, which was great, and I think those lessons that we had, those hard losses, I think they're going to pay dividends moving forward for our program.
You have 17 starters coming back. There should be a quarterback battle. When Brady McBride probably enters the season as the favorite. He played really well in Statesboro coming in after Tyler Vitt hurt his wrist. But Marcel Barbie, what a season from him. 10 touchdown receptions, 7th in the country.
Yeah, he was a great surprise for us. Jacob Peeler, our offensive coordinator, he came in from Ole Miss. and he looked at. He said he'd been looking at this kid for a long time, and you know, literally we hired him. We offered him, and we got him like a week later on campus. You know, it was like that fast. And what a great surprise for us. He's a big body type, and obviously he had 10 touchdown catches last year, which, you know, looking forward to him having a big year in this coming up season.
Defensively, I know it's been a work in progress, but somebody that was really impressive in that game in Statesboro was Nico Isidore.
Yeah, Nico is having a really good, you know, off season. He's had a couple of good few years right now, and he's the guy that we're leaning on up front. And you know, we had so many moving parts and so many inconsistencies on defense with COVID and season-ending injuries and everything, and Nico was probably that constant force there. And he's the guy. Like, we only have two guys that earned, you know, all-conference preseason stuff, and it was Nico and Marcel Barbie. And you know, those are the guys we're going to lean on this year.
I could have talked a little bit about Binky Coleman because he had a fumble recovery and a sack in that game, but Baby J, Jaron Morris, he's 5'9", about 110 pounds, and just continues to make plays somehow.
Yeah, he's a tough kid, and he always, you know, he's a kid that always ends up on the field. You know, like, you know, he's a smaller kid. We call him Baby J. Yeah. You know, and he's a corner for us. And in your guys' game, we ended up moving him to safety because, you know, he's just kind of a scrappy guy that has a good nose for the football, and had a really good game, you know, there in Statesboro.
What's the biggest thing of taking this program to the next level? What's the one thing that you kind of put your focus on of this is what we've got to do to get to where we need?
Yeah, you go like the 2019 season, and I had a very limited recruiting class because we had literally well over 30 seniors, and we lost around 40. So I knew the 2020 was going to be that we needed to bring in a lot of players. We brought in 65 new players, but you go through that 2019 season, and you see the quality of players that you're going up against. And I was like, we need to get bigger. We need to get longer. I felt like we were the smallest team in the country when I went through that first year in the Sun Belt, and we increased the profile. All right, and you know, you go through COVID. I was really concerned about the team building, bonding, the culture, because like you just don't talk, like your team's away from you for about 2-3 months, I felt like. And then we had to phase everybody in, and you know, you're literally going into the SMU game, and like these guys have only met each other really for like 2.5-3 weeks, you know. So but it was good for us to play. Had a lot of experience, was like just, you know, understanding who we are, what we're doing, and we kind of got to weed some things out. You got into this recruiting class, and we can fix our immediate needs and try to find ways to increase the profile of our team, because you go in every single week, you know, it's a coin flip. You're going to end up playing a really quality opponent, and we really had to increase the profile of our team recruiting wise. And we're still, I think that this is probably the biggest and the most talented team we've had, but we still got to keep moving forward with our recruiting to make sure we flip this roster, and I think that's going to pay off for our university.
Now, there was a point in spring practice where you still were without 20 to 30 guys at one time with injuries, with some COVID issues, but with that depth that you've been able to build, that roster turnover, how much did that help you absorb those losses?
It was huge. It really was. Like, you know, like the spring, that was just kind of some bizarre stuff, you know, that happened to us, and we had to take a pause. But
welcome to the Sun Belt.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like we were like one of the healthiest teams in the country in the fall, and then like I felt like everything was going wrong in the spring. But you know, we've gotten to the point where we can practice. Like my first year, and like really going into spring, I couldn't put out a number 2 team. You know, like it was, so you had to be very calculated. Like you had to split your team periods up. You had to move things around. Well, with all the COVID and all the issues and injuries that we had, we were able to practice, and like that means that we were actually building depth and doing a good job at that.
Offensively, a huge jump last year, about 10 more points per game. Maybe the best offense in some ways since the 2014 team that won 7 games. To be able to reach out and say, this is what we have done. This is what we are capable of. Now, schedule-wise, look, in the Sun Belt, it's always going to be unforgiving. But confidence-wise, you have to be at an all-time high there for this team relative to the amount of depth that you've built.
Yeah, and, you know, like this offense that we've ran forever, it's a pretty quarterback and receiver-friendly offense, but we've kind of added some of this, you know, run RPO game, and I feel like we've got 3 talented running backs, and I just think overall, like, these kids are starting to buy into what we're doing. We got a new O-line coach in Jim Turner who came in from the Cincinnati Bengals, and, you know, with Peeler and his Power 5 experience and being with me, and, you know, everything's meshing pretty well. And the thing is, we're a young team. We were a young team last year. We were a new team last year. We got valuable experience, and we're only going to keep getting better. And that's the upside. And I think these kids are having fun with it, and they're pretty confident.
Baylor pays you a visit to open the season September the 4th. That'd be a nice little way to start the non-COVID season.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be great for our community. It's going to be great for our university. That's the second Power 5 team in the history of our program to come to Bobcat Stadium. So just based off of last year and just these speaking events that I've been going to over the course of the past couple months, they're fired up to get this season back going. I promise you got your fan base is too. So I think it's going to be a very great experience for all of us.
We're looking forward to a couple things. One, November the 13th in San Marcos. Number 2, Black's Barbecue, without a doubt.
Oh, no doubt.
Without
no question.
a doubt.
Yeah, there's a lot of good barbecue in Texas. You guys might want to venture out a little bit more, too.
Well, it depends on what kind of car we get. Let's figure that out.
Yeah, try Salt Lick on the way down.
We've heard about Salt Lick.
Pretty solid place.
Thanks for your time. Great to visit with you finally. Good luck this
Yeah,
year.
appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Pat.
He might be one of my new favorites in the league. You want to talk about energy? Goodness. Trying to keep him in this corner over here was –
Okay, well, you're going to hear from Kane Womack here in just a little bit. He's the youngest head coach in the country.
He had the best kicks on today, too.
That, too. And he's 34. Spav's only 36. Spav's only a couple months older than I am.
Okay.
But we didn't get a chance to talk with him. I mean,
No.
We've known he was in the league, and our relationship with Brand Freeman, Bill Colhane, we knew that he was a great guy, but we've never had a chance to really interact with him. And I think I've said this on whether it was Inside Eagle Nation or some interviews. Out west, it's probably going to be the Cajuns to win that division.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Texas State finds a way to finish second.
No, and I think we talked about it on the podcast. With Arkansas State picked second, you could kind of venture that behind Louisiana.
Just with the athletes coming back.
Right. But then the next 3, it's kind of a coin flip of who's going to take over and be that next force in the West. And I think Texas State definitely has the guys to do it. They definitely have the staff to do it because seeing, talking to, and getting to interact with Spavital today, really impressed with what he's got going down in San Marcos.
Now, we mentioned that there are various things going on with Media Day, with the event last night, and talking with everyone today. You've heard a couple of coaches already. If you didn't get a chance to watch them live, you can, of course, go back on this archive. But we also announced on Inside Eagle Nation on Tuesday that we are launching our own YouTube channel for the Georgia Southern Sports Network, and that'll contain these interviews with the other coaches, but also all content that we put out throughout the year.
Yeah, so we'll tweet out the link to the Georgia Southern Sports Network YouTube channel. Like we talked about on Tuesday, we'll have a playlist that has all of the coaches and all of the interviews we did with Commissioner Gill, with Coach Lunsford, J.D. King, Todd Bradley Glenn, all of the opposing coaches that we talked to. And obviously you'll have the archive of this. That'll have the entire 2-hour show. But if you wanted to maybe later on down the road when you get to Arkansas State Week and you want to hear from their head coach, you can go right to it.
And in the case of Butch Jones, we might need to watch some Andy Kwan dancing videos, too.
Or some Andy Kwan games.
Andy Kwan. Got a couple of coaches left to speak with. Move right along to Georgia Southern's chief rival, not just in this conference, but period. Here's Appalachian State head coach Shawn Clark. Joined now by Appalachian State head coach Shawn Clark, entering his second full year at the helm of the Mountaineers. Because of COVID last year, we didn't get a chance to meet or visit with you, so it's good to sit down. And what's your first media day been like so far?
It's been great. I had a chance to get around all the coaches and hang out for a couple hours with them last night. And you know, we have a really good group of coaches in this conference.
Yeah.
And I'm probably more familiar with the guys in the East, with Coach Lunsford and Coach Elliott and Coach Lindsey from Troy. But a bunch of good guys, and it's been a lot of fun so far.
9 wins last year. You're 10-3 since taking over the bowl game the year before when Coach Drinkowitz went to Missouri. Somebody that played at App and somebody that's been at App back since 2016. Why have you been so well positioned to improve on this culture?
Well, I think it goes back to when Jerry Moore was the head football coach here. It's 30-some years ago, and just what he instilled in us as players, we've continued to do that as coaches. And it goes back to Scott Satterfield when he was the head coach, and Drink was here for a year, and actually Drink kind of bonded that culture. Yeah. And it's my job to carry the legacy of it. And just like Georgia Southern, there's a lot of tradition there, and that's what makes the game against Georgia Southern such a great rivalry. I just think that's the best game in college football as a player and a coach. And, so much respect, and our fan base loves it, but it's just a great atmosphere.
Being so entrenched in Appalachian State for so long, what does the rivalry with Georgia Southern and Appalachian State really mean to you?
It's fantastic. I mean, it's one of those – that is the Alabama-Auburn, the Georgia-Florida. And when you're a player, and that was the game you wanted. I mean, even back in the early 90s, we had Marshall in our conference, and that was a big rivalry game. But just that game, I mean, it's just the atmosphere. It doesn't matter if you're playing in Boone or if you're playing in Statesboro. It's just a great college atmosphere, and I'm very happy it's back on a Saturday now, even though it is Thanksgiving weekend. But I think that game should be on a Saturday, the last game of the season every year, because usually that game means something. Yeah. And whoever wins that game usually has the road to the championship game, and that's what makes it so special.
You guys, since making the transition, look, it was a rough start in 14, going 1-5, but ever since then, 69-15 over the last 84 games. You're 6-0 in bowls. Nobody has ever done that, making the transition from FCS to FBS. How has it been so seamless?
Well, I think it goes back to the players you recruit and getting our kind of guys. I mean, you know this from being in Boone. Not everyone fits in Boone. It's a different taste, if you will. They get the right kind of players. And I give Scott a lot of credit when he first got in, that he kind of went back to the bread and butter of what got him there. And we're not very complicated on offense or defense. We just try to get the right kind of players and play sound football. And if you can run the football and play great defense and win special teams, you have a chance to win.
We were up there in 17. You still had Owens Fieldhouse. We were up there in 19. It had all been torn down. You were in the process of building the North End Zone facility. We go up there this year on November 27th to end the season. We're going to see this extremely elaborate facility that you guys seem to take a lot of pride in.
We do, and it's changed the game for us. Anytime, if you're not building in college football, you're getting left behind.
Yeah.
Especially in this conference now. Every team is about the same. But, it's a $50 million complex in our North End Zone, and it's everything state-of-the-art facilities. We're very proud of that. The one thing we are probably more proud than others is we have our own orthopedic surgeon in our building. And that will also be for not only for our student athletes, but for our students in the community in the town of Boone. But we talk about student welfare. And if you have your orthopedic surgeon and general practitioner in your building on a daily basis, then that's a great selling point to parents that will make sure to take care of your kid.
Getting into some of the specific personnel, look, everybody in this league has so many guys coming back. I think the fewest number of starters a team has coming back this year is 16, which is unheard of. But there is a noticeable absence on your offense with Zach Thomas finally finishing up his eligibility. Enter Chase Bryce, who transfers from Duke after a bit of a tumultuous 2020 season. But reading some of the reports, it seems like he's really taken hold of the offense. Another offensive coordinator as well, bringing Frank Ponce back to call the plays.
Yeah, again, and it's when we weren't sure if Zach will come back or not.
Yeah.
And we really found after the bowl game, literally on the bus ride home, that he put it out on social media that he was not going to come back and take his chances in the National Football League. And we supported Zach. Since I've been there, we've had two quarterbacks, Tevin Lamb and Zach Thomas. Yeah. And that's 7 years.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there, and we had to go find a quarterback. And with the COVID protocols, we weren't able to go out and bring someone on campus to actually sit down in person and talk to them. So we did Zooms. We were doing FaceTimes with many quarterbacks. And Chase just fit what we thought was the app guy. I mean, he has something to prove, and he's playing some big-time games at Clemson. When he came out and led Clemson to beat Syracuse down at the Death Valley. And then,
ironically, that was right after Georgia Southern had gone there. We saw him at the end of that game that year.
Right,
yeah.
And he didn't have a great year this past year at Duke. And there's all kinds of factors involved in it. Talking to him, they didn't even have a position meeting in person until Thursday of their first game. And to watch him come here, he's really changed his body. He's buying into what we're selling, and our players look up to him. So probably by practice 9 in spring practice, he really got a hold of the offense and start understanding it. And by practice 13, he was lights out. And he has a Power 5 arm, strong arm. Doesn't run as good as Zach, but he can run as well enough to get a first down.
He gets the benefit of, and this absolutely blew me away. You've got 99% of your receiving yards back from last year, plus Corey Sutton, who opted out of 2020. He's back, somebody who would have been a first-team preseason all-wide receiver had he been on the ballot. But just to know that kind of stability and that kind of production returns to help out a guy that's going to get used to Boone for the first time.
Yeah, that's 99% production. That's a lot of production.
That's serious.
And through spring practice, there's 9 or 10 guys that can be starters in our conference on our football team. And then also you have to include the running backs and tight ends. How do you get the ball to these guys?
Yeah.
And the funny thing down here at Sunbelt Media Day is no one's talking about Corey Sutton, which is a good thing.
He just gets lost.
He got lost. And, you said Thomas Hennig will have the all-time reception record this year.
Yeah.
Corey Sutton will have a chance to be the all-time touchdown reception leader in App State history. Then you throw in Malik Williams, who just kind of a quiet guy who catches 6 balls a game, and Thomas Hennigan and Jalen Virgil is a world-class sprinter. But, our young guys are who I'm more excited about, Christian Horn, Christian Wells, and those guys will really come in and give us a shot in the arm in our offense. But We have some weapons outside. We're still going to run the football, but we have to make sure we get that ball down the field somewhere.
When you guys came to Statesboro at the end of last season, getting a chance to watch Cam Peoples for the first time, I thought he was a physical specimen then, and that was watching him from the press box. I was about 5 feet away from him earlier today. He is one of the more put-together running backs I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah, he's around 6'2", 210, 215 pounds right now. He reminds me of watching Eric Dickerson back in the day, of how he ran the football, kind of stands straight up a little bit. Yeah. His speed is very deceptive in some ways. He runs away from people. He'll be our workhorse in the backfield, and people forget about Nate Noel, who's a guy who had a big game in Statesboro down there and
broke the game open.
Broke the game open, and then we had Jameer Smith from Notre Dame, and if he plays football the way he lifts weights, then we have another stable of running backs. So it's one of those things, hey, how do you get the ball to your playmakers?
We've spent the whole time talking about offense, but defensively you led the league in scoring defense last year. You got 10 starters back. I know there were some injuries during the offseason, but a lot of strength up front with Demetrius Taylor, and I really like the linebackers with Cobb and Jackson.
Yeah, I think Demetrius Taylor, his resume speaks for itself. I mean, again, he's a guy that was in COVID protocol and in quarantine for about 40 days last summer. So he gained some weight, didn't have the season he wanted. He could have came out this year and probably been a free agent, but came back and tried to get his draft stock up. Another guy people don't talk about is Caleb Sperlin. He's 5'9", 230 pounds, and everyone laughs at him, but he makes plays, and he's just that kind of guy. And at nose guard, Jordan Earl, he's a guy that no one talks about, doesn't make a lot of plays, but blocks, just like your defense at Georgia Southern, it's a 3-4 defense. He really stuffs the hole up. And DeMarco Jackson at linebacker, they're all back. Trey Cobb, Brandon Harrington, who's our outside backer, and we have Sean Jolly also at corners, play a lot of football.
Yeah, the one starter not back, Shamar Jean-Charles. He's a fifth-round pick of the Packers. I was going to get to Jolly, somebody that was a first-team All-American as well. Maybe the best combo of corners in the country last year, but it seems like Jolly could be even better this year.
He did. Sean Jolly, he had a breakout season as a sophomore, and this past year as a junior, a lot of teams were throwing at Shamar, and Shamar was in the right place at the right time. And to me, you talk about our kind of players, it's Shamar Jean-Charles, a guy who was not heavily recruited, and he comes in and works his way. It's not a red shirts, doesn't play much as a freshman. His sophomore year plays a little bit here, starts as a junior, then his fifth year he has a breakout season. But I think it just goes to the work ethic he has and what our program's about.
What's been the biggest thing we've talked about it this entire time of being so entrenched in what Appalachian State is? What was the biggest challenge of taking over as the head coach?
Well, don't mess it up.
That's you're honest.
Hey, I'm just being honest with you. He said, Scott had a great run here as a head football coach, a former player. Drink comes in and goes 12-1. We win the conference, and then, I was the third head coach in 3 years, and our program, like any other program, the turnover. If you keep having turnover, you're going to start declining your production.
Yeah.
And we finally got some stability here, but my biggest thing was how can we take this program to another level, and that's hard. And you guys know this from your fan base. There's high expectations in Statesboro. There's high expectations in Boone. 9-3 anywhere in the country would be a great season. In Boone, they want to ask you what's wrong, and so. But we have to get back going and just. But again, I'm very proud of where I am as the head football coach here. It means something to me to be the head coach where I played, and hopefully I get a chance to be here for a long time.
And this has been talked about before, but you and Coastal co-favorites to win the East in 2021. But you can make an argument for anybody else in the division. Georgia State's much improved. Troy should have its best team under Chip Lindsey, and Georgia Southern is always a threat. Appalachian State, they know that better than anybody in this league. I think it could be a wide-open East this year.
I believe so, too. Anybody can beat anyone. If you turn the football over and don't play great defense, you're going to get beat. And it doesn't matter who you're playing, what your record is. Our conference is very tough. And, a lot of these coaches on the eastern side of our division are very familiar with each other, and we know more about how they do things. But again, it's going to be a great season. I'm excited to get started. I hope just COVID stays away and we get this thing rolling.
We know Georgia Southern has good history in New Orleans. App State has some pretty good history in New Orleans as well.
Yeah, it's been a great time. I tell you, I've really had an exciting time getting to meet Chad and talk to him. Just the Georgia Southern faithful should be very proud of what they have down there.
Yeah,
because he does bleed Eagle pride, whatever you want to call it down there. But man, he's a great person. He's right for that program.
Second straight year, it will end the regular season. This time it's in Boone. I'm sure it'll be a little cold. We'll deal with it. November the 27th up at Kid Brewer Stadium, Georgia Southern, Appalachian State. Coach, we appreciate the time. Good to finally meet you. We'll catch up with you soon.
Well, it can't be any colder than it was in 2019.
No chance. Well, we'll see.
I've been there and played there for 5 years, coached there for the last 6. That was the coldest I've ever been in my life. So hopefully it's not that cold. But, man, I appreciate you guys having me on and look forward to seeing you in Boone.
Thanks, Shawn.
Thank you.
You enjoy talking with every head coach in this league, especially one who understands the Georgia Southern App State rivalry from the App State perspective.
Yeah, it's like we talk about all the time. Their App State rivalry is very different than a lot of rivalries. It's one of the best, if not the best, in G5.
Yeah.
But it's different. It's not, yes, you hate App State, but there's a hate with a respect factor. And I know that's hard to wrap your head around if you haven't been a part of it and haven't been in it, like Georgia Southern and App State people have. But that's really what it is. You don't like them, but you respect them.
Look at the last 3 years. App was 25th in the country in 2018, first time they'd ever been ranked. Comes to Statesboro on a Thursday night. Georgia Southern dominates. 2019, up to Boone. App, highest ranking ever. They were number 20. Remember, they went 13-1 that year. Who was the one? Georgia Southern, thanks to Shai Wertz, thanks to Wesley Kennedy, thanks to a great defensive performance against Zach Thomas with all the wind and the snow, made him throw over 50 times because they could not figure out how to run the ball. And then App gets revenge last year in Statesboro on a Saturday to end the season. Eagles were up 14-0, then Justin Tomlin goes down. Derek Canteen gets hurt very early in the first quarter, so you had a lot of backups upon backups. Miller Mosley did what he could to pilot that offense, ultimately losing by 8. But what makes a great rivalry is when both teams win.
Yeah.
Now, Georgia Southern dominated the 2014 game in the first year that both were in the Sun Belt, but then App clubbed the Eagles in 15, 16, and 17. So it wasn't much of a rivalry those 3 years. But the Eagles taking it back 18 and 19, App responds last year. It's nice to be able to talk about this as a rivalry, and deeper than hate means something to both of these.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those, you have to be in it to understand it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, even around the Sun Belt, that are still trying to wrap their heads around what this rivalry means, and the fact that both came to the Sun Belt in the same year at the same time from the SoCon. I think that just added another layer to it. Not that it needed another layer.
And the fact that the two are a combined 9-1 in bowl games with a combined 5 conference championships over 7 years, I think that gives you an illustration of how the programs could bump up and still maintain their success.
Yeah, no doubt.
The 2 Alabama schools in the Sun Belt remain. We'll move on to our next head coach. From Troy, here's Chip Lindsey. Continuing back in New Orleans with Troy head coach Chip Lindsey, now entering year 3 leading the Trojans. We've talked to a couple of people today. We didn't get a chance to do this last year because of COVID. We did have you back in 19. It's good to see you again, man.
You too. It's always this is a great time because kickoff's right around the corner, and you don't appreciate sometimes things until you don't get to do them. And definitely excited to be here. I think that's a sign we're heading in the right direction. Get back to some normalcy.
Did your fans pick your tie again like they did 2 years ago?
No, I don't think we didn't do that, did we? Okay. No, this is one of my favorites, so I really like it.
I like that one, too.
My wife helped me with it, make sure the red's right,
You guys took some steps forward. I know it was another losing season, but some steps forward on defense. Points per game came down. Not necessarily the most opportunistic in terms of forcing turnovers. I know Carlton Marshall's on that defense, preseason player of the year. We'll get to him in a moment. But going into the season, how do you stress trying to be more of a turnover-forcing unit?
Yeah, I think that's the key. When you create turnovers, you give your offense more opportunities. I thought at times we did that. I remember a couple pick sixes and different things. I think for us, obviously last year, it was an unbelievable year from the standpoint of just every week not knowing who you got, who you don't. I'm sure Georgia Southern in the same boat, and I really am proud of how our guys battled through it. We started off great. We had some COVID issues in the middle of the season that we dealt with as well as we could, and then finished really strong with South Alabama and Coastal Carolina, and then didn't get to play our last game against ULM and trying to get bowl eligible. So all in all, we had great momentum built for the offseason. I feel like we were a much better team than our record, but at the same time, you kind of are who you are record-wise, and we missed some opportunities during the middle of the season to put ourselves in a better position for sure. The good thing is we got a lot of guys back, and we were much improved on defense. I want to say we jumped maybe 71 spots on defense, which is outstanding. And a lot of people go, well, what did you guys do different, No, we didn't do anything different. But what we did is we got better players, you know. So we had more depth and we've added to that some too. So I'm looking forward to it. I know our team's excited. We've had a great offseason and ready to get going.
You brought up the point during that you were supposed to play ULM to wrap up the season.
Yeah.
That's a game that never happened because of COVID issues. That was the only game in the conference schedule that did not get played last year.
Know.
You're getting prepared.
You're reminding me.
Well,
yeah, he's like, thanks, rubbing it in.
Thanks for rubbing that in.
Don't rub it in. But with that in mind, trying to get prepared and trying to finish with a 500 season, how much does that motivate you that you didn't get a chance to really end your year?
Yeah, it hurt when it happened because in our mind we were getting bowl eligible, going to go to a bowl, win a bowl game, and all that, and we just didn't get it. And so, you know, and if you go back and remember, we were supposed to play ULM, I think, 2 or 3 other times during the season.
Yeah.
Kept getting moved around or something like that. So it is what it is. I mean, COVID made it an unusual year for everyone. But still, at the end of the day, our guys wanted to be bowl eligible and get in, and we didn't get that opportunity. But at the same time, if you look back during the season, we left some things on the table early in the year that we wouldn't have been in that position if we had done some things early in the year like we should have done or could have done, and it's created a lot of motivation for our offseason for sure. Our guys are very confident going into the season, and this league's better than it's ever been. You guys know that. No offense to anyone, but there is no Idaho states and New Mexico states anymore, or Idaho, whichever one was in there. It was before I got here, so I can't remember. But, what I'm getting at is we got great coaches. We got great coaches in this league. We got great program. We got good players in our league. Every program in our league, if you look, is improving and getting better, and that makes it for a really competitive league. In my opinion, the best G5 league in the country.
Mentioned him earlier, but Carlton Marshall has really been a guy that stands out for you guys on the defensive side, somebody that we've talked about a lot. You love to watch play unless you're playing against him, but being able to watch him grow up at Troy, what has that process been like?
It's been great. He got here before I was there. He walked on and earned a scholarship, and, my first spring I remember us running plays against the defense, and I'm upset with the O-line, like, why are we not blocking this guy? There's no way we can't block him. And he just always makes tackles. He's got great instincts. Very tough, very physical, and loves to play. And just really, really, he's such an unselfish person. All this hype and things he gets, you never hear him say anything about it. He wants Troy to win. That's the only thing he cares about. And all the other stuff comes along with it. He's a great example of if you take care of the team, good things happen. And he's a leader of our team for sure. Hopefully we can keep him as long as we can. Maybe he can get his doctorate degree or whatever, with this extra year, because we want him there as long as we can keep him.
Offensively, had a little bit of trouble running the football last year, just 3.4 yards per carry, but there is talent in that backfield. We saw Kamani Vidal, the Georgia guy, and from indications, B.J. Smith may be back to the B.J. Smith that he was a couple of years ago when he was Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, we really struggled up front. I mean, we had 3 new starters and 1 true freshman. They did get better at the end of the season. We played much, much better up front. And, went through some growing pains. That's just part of it. But we got them all back. They've got experience. We've added a few depth to it. We have to run the football better. We understand that, and that's something that we really worked on hard in the spring and will continue. But I'm pleased with the progress. I mean, our defense is, with Carlton and those guys over there, do a pretty good job stopping the run. So, we were able to hit some runs in the spring and so forth. But that's going to be a huge part of our success this year is how well we're able to run the ball when we want to run it.
You did get them involved in the pass game, and I remember back to when Georgia Southern played Auburn in 2017. You were the offensive coordinator. I know how much that you like to involve the running backs in the passing game. Both those guys had 26 catches, second most in the league amongst running backs behind C.J. Marable. That seems to be a big part of moving this offense ahead.
Yeah, I think so. I think, if you look at the NFL, it's the same way. It's how you attack space, and how you create explosive plays. And, us being able to throw the football down the field some really helps open up for our guys underneath. And, yeah, we don't turn around. We maybe didn't turn around and hand it to them for as much success as we wanted, but we really did a great job getting them the football in the passing game, which from a coaching standpoint is kind of what I look at. But those guys do a great job of running routes. They understand coverage. They understand where to be when they're supposed to, on certain concepts and so forth. So, and they can all catch it. And if we're not going to sign guys that can't catch the football, I think that's important too. And if you're going to go on and play at the next level, you better be able to do it. So, for us, it's a huge part of what we do, and we'll hopefully continue to do that.
You bring back Gunnar Watson at quarterback, but you've been able to create a competition, bringing in Taylor Powell from Missouri. I know Jacob Free decided he wasn't going to use his extra year of eligibility, but for Powell, somebody that's transferring in from Missouri, that should help amp up that quarterback room.
Yeah, for sure. You know, Jacob decided to go ahead and start his career coaching and teaching. We're so excited for him. I love that kid to death, and you know, he's graduated, got his degree, and his high school coach got a job and offered him a job with him. So that's pretty neat to see one of your players get into coaching. I think that's always exciting. But Gunnar played really well early. He got hurt against Georgia State and missed, I think, a month and some broken ribs, and came back, really played hurt the rest of the year. But was played at a high level. Just too many turnovers. That's one thing we got to correct at that position. We brought Taylor Powell in to create some competition there, who's played in the SEC. He's got experience. Really pleased with how he came in and really jumped both feet in, learning our offense and becoming a factor. We had a great competition in the spring, and Gunnar improved because of it. And we'll go into the fall with a really good competition, and it'll make everybody better.
Georgia Southern is going to visit Troy October the 9th, first of back-to-back home games in a week, going to the state of Alabama, have South Alabama that following Thursday at Hancock-Whitney Stadium. And I bring it up because the Vet has not been a place that Georgia Southern has been very good at outside of the victory in 2015. 17 and 19 were both blowout losses. From the experience of your standpoint being on that sideline, what makes the Vet such a home field advantage?
Well, I mean, obviously our fans. I mean, you know, we are always ranked high in attendance, and where we are located, Troy is really important, probably similar to Georgia Southern in our state. That area, they love Troy football, and that's one of the things that I think's really impressive. When I came here as an assistant in 2010, saw it firsthand then, and now coming back as the head coach, and you know, you got a fan base that's extremely passionate. Really very similar. We were very similar from Georgia Southern and Troy from the standpoint of where we're located in the state, and obviously there's some other schools in the SEC that are in our state or whatever, but the people that love Troy or went to Troy and support Troy, they love it. And I'm sure it's the same there at Georgia Southern, and that's what makes it special. And we always love playing at home. You know, I didn't enjoy that trip to Georgia Southern near as much last year as I did being at home the year before.
The thing that is amazing about that, to add a little bit more, the average attendance of the Vet is more than the total population of Troy. I don't know how you achieve that, but multiple attendance records have been set over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You just added the new facility within the last couple of years. Things are going up, I would think.
Yeah, you know, I think it just that whole southeastern part of Alabama, there's a lot of rural towns around there, and they all want to come to Troy and support us. And we got a great game day atmosphere. That's one of the things that's pretty cool is the tailgating scene there is really cool. I mean, we do our Trojan walk there before every game. Last year we didn't get to do it, but you know, we'll go back to that, I'm sure. And it's just an event that they come for and tailgate, and I mean that's what college football is all about. That's why it's so much fun to be at programs like this and Georgia Southern as well, where it's really important and the fans get into it and makes it really special.
You've talked about it, and we've heard it a lot today, how strong the Sun Belt Conference is right now. When you look at this conference as a whole, is it kind of where you thought it would be when you took the job at Troy?
No, it's better. It's better than I thought it'd be, for sure. Yeah, I remember when I was here in 2010, a lot of Conference USA schools now were in the league then. I think FAU, FIU, I remember playing those guys, and that stand out for sure. And, you know, it's just changed. The dynamics has changed with Georgia Southern coming in, App State coming in, now Coastal Carolina. Obviously, they had their breakout year last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just what you find is you find a league that football is important at those universities. They hire good coaches. They financially support it like they should. And so each and every week, I mean, it's a dogfight. You got to be ready. And there is no easy week for sure.
Last year was what it was, but the league got such a great opportunity to play on national television.
Mm-hmm.
Coastal was a top 10 team at one point. Louisiana was top 15. App State was ranked before ultimately not finishing in the top 25. But now that this year looks like it could be more normal, to put it that way, how can the league still be positioned to have the kind of impact that it did last year?
Well, I think it started with, our leadership. Our commissioner, obviously Keith Gill, he does a great job, and he announced the extended partnership with ESPN and more opportunities to play and so forth, and I think we've earned that. Our conference has earned that, and now that's just going to give us more and more exposure. And I think for us, we had success last year against some P5s as a conference, which is always helps you. And our bowl success is outstanding. I mean, if you look at our league winning percentage, won the most bowl games. When you compare all the leagues, so all those things I think go hand in hand, and making this league really really good, really competitive, and makes it a lot of fun. But it does cause some stress on coaches. I can promise you that, getting ready every week.
You started September the 4th against Southern, September the 11th against Liberty. Both of those will be at the Vet. And again, Georgia Southern will be visiting Troy October the 9th. Eagles and Trojans down in the Wiregrass. Coach, it's been a couple years since we had a chance to see you. Appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah.
Good luck this season.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Chip Lindsey from Troy about to enter his third year, and it's different talking about a Troy team that has back-to-back losing seasons after as successful Neil Brown was with 3 straight double-digit win seasons. But they felt like that they were a lot better than 5-6 last year. If they get to play ULM, they probably finish 6-6, and there was potential that if they did, they were going to knock Georgia Southern out of a potential bowl bid. That was a possibility realistically over the final couple of weeks of the regular season. But I think that this is absolutely going to be Chip's best team.
Yeah, I think if there's a team that's going to turn it around for Troy, this is the team that is set up to do it on paper. It's been a tough go of it ever since Chip got to Troy. And as you mentioned, a tough act to follow in Neil Brown over Troy and what he was able to do. But being able to be right around the 500 mark the last couple of years, but now trying to get over that hurdle and get back to what Troy football thinks it should be.
We mentioned Carlton Marshall, their outstanding middle linebacker, a former walk-on. He is the nation's leading tackler the last 2 seasons. 2 seasons. He's unreal. Number 2 for Troy's defense. That's somebody that the Eagles are going to have to account for each play on the field. One more coach. It's the other Alabama school. We'll see them 5 days after those Trojans back in Alabama on a Thursday night at lovely Hancock Whitney Stadium. And one of the newest head coaches in this league, one of the 3 new bloods. Welcome, South Alabama's Kane Womack. Continuing with our look at Sun Belt Conference head coaches, Georgia Southern and South Alabama going to match up on Thursday night at the lovely Hancock Whitney Stadium on October the 14th. That's 5 days after the Eagles head to Troy on October the 9th. Some fresh fish in the water from South Alabama head coach Kane Womack, entering year 1, 34 years old, the youngest head coach in the country. You've probably heard that a lot, but we may as well bring it up, and nice to have you with us.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I was telling people, it's why I get away with wearing Vans with a suit and things like that. So
pretty sharp, though.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Pull that off. Defensive coordinator for South in 16 and 17. Last couple of years in Indiana, you were a finalist for the Broyles Award last year for a tremendous Indiana season. What was it, though, that pulled you back to Mobile?
Well, we really did have it was awesome success and really fun to be able to go through that in Indiana. But I had been at South Alabama before as a defensive coordinator. Obviously, Melissa and I fell in love with the city of Mobile. There's such a rich tradition and history and culture, coupled with all the resources that have been put into the football program in the last 3 years. I walked out of that place and came back, and there's a brand new stadium and indoor facility and
shiny new toys
and some shiny new toys to be able to show off this year.
Your dad was former defensive coordinator at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
And remembering our broadcast boards from the 2 years that you were D coordinator, running the 4-2-5, of course, but talking about wolves and stingers and bandits and rovers. We don't see a lot of those names with defenses,
That's
but
right.
how did you adapt your version of the 4-2-5?
Well, that's a great question. So I was fortunate enough to work under my dad at Ole Miss when we had the number 1 defense in the country, and every guy under him went on to be an FBS coordinator. So fortunately, I was able to bring Corey Batoon, who was also with us at Ole Miss, as our defensive coordinator, and run that system. Things have evolved over the years, and I think that's the thing my dad taught all of us, is the system is a system, but it always has to evolve to adapt to what offenses are doing these days.
I was listening to what you were talking about with the Texas State crew just over to our right a few minutes ago, and they were asking you, with your defensive background and defensive coordinator, of if you're going to have a hand in defense, and you brought up something that I thought was pretty cool, that you kind of call yourself a detail coordinator.
Yeah. I think when you look at the head coach role, right? Certainly, I want to have a tremendous influence in not only our defense, but also what we do across the board. And so my job, right, is to say, okay, whatever the vision of who we want to be offensively, defensively, special teams. My job is to hold us accountable to the detail of accomplishing that vision. And so I think that's really my role as a detail coordinator and being the head coach.
You were a defensive coordinator when you were just 26 years old at Eastern Illinois. Getting a chance to be in that kind of leadership role so early in your coaching career, it almost felt like it put you on the fast track to get a position like you have now 8 years later.
No, I think that's a great point, and I don't think I would have been in this position to be a head coach, right, if I hadn't had those experiences and even in some degrees taken some lumps. You know, I learned so much in that first year of being a defensive coordinator. Last night I was hanging out with the linebackers coach for the New Orleans Saints, Mike Hodges. We were both 26 years old, both together at Eastern Illinois, and we were laughing about all the things that we learned and mistakes we made. And fortunately, we ended up having success there, and we went to the playoffs and had a good defense. And so, you know, obviously having a father in this profession has helped me, right? The networking, you know, I go to a coaches convention, I feel like I've been in this thing for 30 years, you know. So, but when the opportunity came, I felt like I was ready, and I think that's probably most important, just having that inner confidence.
How'd you come up with the idea of a swarm D?
Oh, that's good. So it's actually a good on Friday nights before a game when my dad was the defensive coordinator at Southern Miss. They had these amazing defenses. In fact, his last year there, they had like 12 NFL players, so just on defense alone. But on Friday night, they would have a meeting called the Ready Break Swarm, and they would call out their plays, and they would say, you know, interception by the safety or sack by the defensive end, and it was kind of a real high energy deal.
That's neat.
And so I thought, you know what, that's who we are, right? We're a swarming defense, and so we kind of branded ourselves as a swarm D when I got to Eastern Illinois.
One of the main guys from this unit, Keith Gallman, preseason All-League safety, third-team All-League safety last year, close to 90 tackles. He played really well in that game in Statesboro. How has he taken hold as one of the leaders of that defense?
Yeah, you know, Keith, here, there's a Mobile native, you know, that just again, he's not the longest guy out there, not necessarily the fastest, but he's just a tremendous football player. And that's what we've always tried to do. We've always tried to put smart people on the field that can create negative plays and takeaways. And he's got a real knack for disguise back there, and he's got a great knack for open field tackling. And so he's just a tremendous resource and fun for us as coaches to be able to utilize him.
Now, on the offensive side, South has had trouble putting points on the board the last 4 years. They've been 100th or worse in scoring offense 4 consecutive seasons, but you bring in Major Applewhite to run the offense, a former head coach at Houston, great quarterback at Texas, and there's a chance that the starter from a year ago, Desmond Trotter, may not even be the one to take the snaps with Jake Bentley coming in as a grad transfer from Utah.
Well, very excited about Jake Bentley coming in. We did name him our starter coming out of spring football, and here's a guy that's thrown for over 8,000 yards in the SEC. He's had a tremendous career to this point. He's got great experience, and he walked in the door at South Alabama, and he truly connected with our players. And I think that first and foremost allowed him to have the opportunity to show what he can do on the field, and certainly in Major system. I'm just so impressed with the things that we can do offensively and the creative ways that we can get our playmakers the ball, like a Jalen Tolbert, who's had tremendous success in this thing, and now we have someone in Jake Bentley as well that can delegate the ball to him.
To know that you probably have the top returning wide receiver in the country, that's a pretty cool thing to be able to boast.
Yeah, it really is. You know what's so cool about that is when I was there before, I was part of recruiting Jalen to South Alabama. So, and that was the case for a number of guys that when I was able to, come back and see these guys as freshmen and now some of the success that they've had on the field and still get to share that success with them at the back end of their career is very rewarding for me.
I know taking over as head coach at South Alabama, your first head coaching job, and a crazy time to be in college football right now. But what's been the most surprising thing for you in your first year?
I think, you plan all this time for a staff meeting, and think about this, right? Everything, culture and vision for a program is so important, but everything is coming out of your head, right? And then through your mouth, and then is delegated out to the rest of the staff. And so doing that over and over and over again, but then as soon as a meeting's done, right, there's 10 other questions that come through. And so I always knew it was important to protect the time of the head coach, but you realize now in this role how important that is for the efficiency of the entire program.
What is it that excites you most about this being your first job as a head coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. We experienced this at Indiana. We were able to bring some young players in and build those guys up, and then we watched a program that had really not had much success in 113 years go to having tremendous on-field success and seeing the reward of our players' hard work. That's a great feeling as a coach to know that you contributed to that, be it from a developmental standpoint or schematically. There were some things that we did that I feel like are a little bit ahead of the game right now. And so bringing some of those experiences back down to Mobile in a place that I love deeply and having impact and knowing that our best days are ahead of us as a university and a program is a really exciting thing.
And to know you've got practically a new facility, you've got a great recruiting area, you
Right.
know the place, you know the school, it would seem that there's a lot pointing up about this situation.
Well, I think you did touch on. I mean, the fact that I was there before, and I do have some connections. I know the area. I don't want to sit there and say that I hit the ground running, but certainly walking in the right direction. You know what I mean? So it does. It allows you to know that I was a part of this program and put a lot of time and energy into it. And now with all these resources that have been put into the program, to know that I get to help shape the tradition and history for an on-campus stadium and all the things that we're going to do.
Only the 13th year of football at South Alabama, but for Georgia Southern, first opportunity to see Hancock-Whitney Stadium. That'll be on Thursday night. Game on ESPNU, October the 14th, Eagles and Jaguars. Great getting to meet you. Congratulations on the job, and we'll see you here in a couple months.
All right. Look forward to it.
Appreciate it.
See you.
Getting one final look at the Armstrong Ballroom of the Sheraton New Orleans for 2021 Sun Belt Conference Football Media Day as we wrap up our coverage on the Georgia Southern Sports Network from Learfield. Alongside Colin, Lacy, I'm Danny Reed. We haven't had a chance to touch on that, but earlier today coming out that we now are going by a new name, but it is in fact an old name. No longer will we be Learfield IMG College, but back to the former Learfield, new logo, new branding as this company makes its move into the sports marketing forefront.
And if you get a chance, go and take a look at the new logo that got put out earlier on today, actually. If you look at the new logo, it's a different L in the logo, and there's a lot that went into building that logo, a lot of paying homage to Learfield, paying homage to the IMG side before the two companies merged. But at the end of the day, you're still listening to the Georgia Southern Sports Network, but just now you're going to hear Powered by Learfield.
So we have heard from all 8 league coaches that Georgia Southern is going to play in 2021. We talked with Chad Lunsford. We talked with J.D. King, Todd Bradley Glenn, also Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill. We, of course, congratulated him on his recent contract extension. He'll be leading the league through 2026. The announcement earlier today that the partnership between the Sun Belt and the ESPN family of networks is stretching out through the 2030-31 season. You've got the bowl tie-ins, ESPN events expanding that relationship last year to give Sun Belt teams in those 5 berths an opportunity to potentially participate in 10 different games. This league made such a move last year. It's unfortunate that it had to be at the expense of teams not being able to play because of COVID-19 concerns. But the Sun Belt can't apologize for that. They can only say what they did positively with Coastal, with Louisiana, with App, beating the Big 12 3 times in the same day on opening weekend. That just set the stage for what was an awesome year of football.
And when you think back of everything that's been covered today at Media Day, normally the first and many questions are going to be, what do the bowl tie-ins look like?
Yeah.
You didn't hear that a whole lot today because there was a lot more that had to get covered.
That quickly went way down the list.
In this Media Day, you had everything from the ESPN deal, as you mentioned, to how you're going to deal with COVID-19, NIL, everything else that's going around the college football world and college athletics world. But a really good day here at Media Day. Really good, again, to see everybody, get to hang out with people, get to talk to people within 6 feet, be able to do it safely as well. again, a great job by the Sun Belt Conference. We talked about it with Keith Gill earlier on when we had him on. But just the presentation that the Sun Belt had here at the Sheraton Hotel downtown, having to move this location because of construction inside the Superdome, but a really, really good event put on by the Sun Belt today.
We've mentioned this a couple of times, but we know that Georgia Southern begins its season in 44 days on September the 4th against Gardner-Webb at Allen E. Paulson Stadium. Kickoff 6 o'clock. We'll be live with the Eagle Tailgate Show from Allen E. Paulson Stadium beginning at 4. But league play begins that Thursday, 42 days away, so 6 weeks from now. You've got Coastal Carolina hosting the Citadel. You've got Appalachian State and East Carolina playing in Charlotte. So the two teams that are picked to potentially win the East are both going to christen league play, and they both, even though they were very good last year, it's tough to say for an 11-win team in Coastal you got something to prove, but can they do it now with everybody back and now everybody knowing just how good they can be?
Yeah, and we've talked about throughout this entire Facebook Live about how strong the Sun Belt competition is.
Yeah.
And the Sun Belt, I don't know that it's been stronger, at least since Georgia Southern has been in the mix. And talking to Jay Walker, who's been around the Sun Belt Conference forever, but everybody that sees what the Sun Belt is going, it's on the upward trajectory like we talk about a lot.
And we know for Georgia Southern, 8-5 last year was very good. Playing 13 games, one of two teams in the country to pull that off, winning a bowl game in dominant fashion over Louisiana Tech here in New Orleans. We have such great memories of that December the 23rd over at the Superdome and a 38-3 win. But now it's still nice to remember that, but we begin to move on. We talk about what 2021 is going to look like. Justin Tomlin probably takes over the helm of that Georgia Southern offense. You get J.D. King back. How does he share reps with Logan Wright? How does Amari Jones, the Tulane transfer, we may as well bring him up because we're in New Orleans. How does he work into the scheme? How do you get Caleb Hood more involved? We saw what he could do returning punts last year. In fact, they're both going to be involved in the return game because Jones, according to multiple outlets, a preseason all-league pick as a return man, not having touched the ball in Statesboro yet. And defensively, you lose Raymond Johnson to the New York Giants, but there's a lot of depth on that defensive line. I think Dylan Springer, C.J. Wright, Justin Ellis was outstanding from the midway portion on last year at linebacker. It should be transfer heavy, but guys that have been there like a Trey Allen, like a John Ferguson, like a Todd Bradley Glenn, a chance to really make a further name for themselves. And then in the secondary, it all starts with Derek Canteen and great experience on the other corner with Darrell Baker.
And before we wrap this up, got to give a huge shout-out to Todd Bradley Glenn and to J.D. King. Did a fantastic job representing the player side for Georgia Southern. A really good job today. Heard from a couple of different people who would stop me and be like, hey, your two guys really killed it today.
You know what? It's been 2 years since we had a chance to do this here, but it almost felt like old hat. It was nice to get it back to the way that it was.
It's nice that this feels normal again.
Yeah.
And Jay and I were talking about it last night. It's really nice to, when we got on the airplane to get here, it felt abnormal to put the mask on. And obviously you still have to do that when you're flying and going through the airports and on the aircraft. But it's nice that that is coming abnormal. And now the new normal is back to what you would have before. And you're still taking the precautions, obviously.
Yeah.
But being able to sit and have a conversation, and I know I keep going back to that and keep saying it, but it's something as simple as shaking somebody's hand.
Instead of the awkward fist pound, elbow, handshake kind of deal.
Right. Which of the three were you going to do?
Yeah.
And you never picked the same one.
Yeah.
But being able to just shake somebody's hand, sit down and have a conversation with them, whether you're in front of a microphone or not.
Yeah.
And that was the best part of this week, and being able to get back to that.
The next time you will hear from Colin and I is next Tuesday with the newest edition of the Inside Eagle Nation podcast, of course, on Facebook Live. We'll be transitioning eventually to Monday evenings with that. We'll announce that before we go to that. Of course, we have Inside Georgia Southern Football, the first edition coming up the week of the Gardner-Webb game, and then kickoff in 44 days at Allen E. Paulson Stadium. It's Georgia Southern and the Runnin' Bulldogs of Gardner-Webb. We appreciate everybody's time today. We appreciate everyone tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed it as well. For the Sun Belt Conference Media Day here in New Orleans, alongside Colin and Lacy, this has been Danny Reed, Eagle Nation. We will talk to you on Tuesday with our next edition of Inside Eagle Nation right here on the Georgia Southern Sports Network, powered by Learfield.